long. And so this is all about two-way communication. You know, I've had the pleasure of interviewing meeting planners. I've interviewed past clients, and one of the things that they tell me is that they hate, my word, not theirs, but they dislike speakers that talk at their audience. They dislike speakers that don't respect their audience. They think about it as disrespect when you just talk at your audience. So call and response is really about two-way communication, and that's what he did in this clip. Jeannie, what did you say?
And one of the things that we also noticed was the repetition for resonance. So when you're trying to get your audience to understand something that you're saying, perhaps it's a concept you've come up with, or maybe it's just solid words, or maybe it's something that's really important. It's the nugget that you really want to hit. When you repeat something, people are going to see it. But resonance, I love that word. It has a little musical vibe to it because it's not just hearing it. You know, when you feel something, you know, when you feel that music and all of a sudden it moves you. Even if you, I was telling somebody the other day, I don't remember, but I was on Spotify and I said, you know, I'm just really feeling like I want to hear gospel and jazz and piano all mixed together. There it was. When you want to hear something that moves you. Repetition for resonance. We as speakers can do that.
One other thing that he did in this video, and I don't know if you all caught it, is there were some
They're a sharp group. I bet they did.
They did catch it.
I bet they did.
Okay.
They're sharp.
He had several powerful sound bites. We've actually had speakers in NSA Georgia come to us and talk about how one of the things that you can do, one of the techniques that you can integrate into your craft to elevate your craft is to speak in sound bites, because those sound bites can be used on social media. It's the things that people remember. And so Dr. Martin Luther King in this clip had a couple. There's one that's actually plastered on a wall in Atlanta if you're close to Inman Park. And it's the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. That's a quote that people say all the time. It's in the city, you know, on a wall somewhere. The other one that I like, that I kind of took and I was like, ooh, but it was like, a lie can't last forever. A lie can't live forever. And so, amen. Somebody said amen. Okay.
The preacher part's coming out. Here we go. Call and response. Call and
response.
response.
So, but we could probably listen to that again and get 2 or 3 more sound bites. But it's one of the things that we can, again, incorporate into our own craft as we're raising our own levels of excellence, which is to speak in sound bites.
We can probably listen to it again, she said. Don't we want people to listen to us again? Don't we want to hear things again? I think sometimes we think, okay, every time I've got to say something different, but that sound bite that they might hear over and over is what gives them hope. You definitely hear hope in any of Martin Luther King Jr.'s talks. How do we give audiences hope? National Speakers Association, we focus on integrity and respect, and we want to leave them with something, not so that they go, wow, that speaker was great. I can't wait to hear Candace again. What did Candace give me? Courage that I'm going to take into what I do next. That's why we're here at NSA.
Yeah, and I think you could feel that hope at the very end where everyone is cheering and everyone is, you know, so yes, hope. One of the things that he doesn't do it a lot, but there are some very decided, strong gestures that he uses in this clip. So you'll see him raise his arm at certain moments when he's saying certain words. So one of the things that is important for us to remember as speakers, and if you've ever been coached, then your coach has told you this, is you're not just moving to move. You're not just walking to walk. You're making decided movements and gestures. And that's what we saw Dr. Martin Luther King did. And so how can we do that? How can we make sure that when we are speaking, we are moving with purpose, which is what a lot of speakers will tell you to do.
Yeah, just think about when you're moving, you're going somewhere, because that's what you want your audience to do. And the last thing is confident voice. We do not have to wonder if he has a confident voice. But in fact, in doing our research for this segment, we were reading everybody else talking about what they get from hearing Martin Luther King speak. And so many people talked about just the resonance again, the sound of his voice. He doesn't have to say much, but we hear that sound. So we want to think about our voice, not only in the, you know, our voice and speaking up as speakers and leaving our audience with something, but also working on our voices collectively and individually. So those are some of the things that we came up with.
Awesome.
right?
Did y'all see that too? Awesome. Cool.
So anytime we watch, yes, we wanted to honor this when we moved our meeting. We want to make sure we honored this particular holiday weekend, but we also, one of the great orders, I mean, one of the people that we follow. So when you're listening to even one of us, I didn't mean to say even one of us, even one of us, even one of us speak, what do you hear? Even if I play have you ever edited one of your own talks, like the video of it? Speaker Academy people, you feel me? All right. So when you're editing it and you have to listen to yourself 4,000 times because you got to get that clip to take that little thing out. So when you listen over and over again, sometimes we have to listen to our own voice as well, but also listen to your colleagues. That's what NSA is about. Anything else on that?
I don't think so. I think what we'll close with is what we are definitely, and I kind of opened with this, but what we are definitely charging towards and moving forward to in terms of what we want NSA Georgia to be is a place where everyone feels like this is their home. These are your people. These people are your vibe. And I will just say, I joined NSA Georgia in 2017. It was 2 years before I actually became a full-time speaker. And I entered through Speaker Academy because I wanted to know, can you really make money doing this thing? And when I was in the room with my cohort, we had 18 people in our cohort. Those were my people. Those were the people who were invested in me and I was invested in them. I want to be really honest with you all and say, when I came out of that room and came into the larger room, um, at NSA Georgia, I didn't really feel necessarily like I belonged. I didn't see a lot of people who looked like me. I didn't see a lot of people who were at the same station in life as me. I stuck it out. I know a lot of people who didn't. I stuck it out because I knew that this chapter provided a lot of value. I knew that this organization provided a lot of value. And so, and we don't want people to just come for the value, though. We want you to come because you feel like you belong. And so that's what we're moving towards.
And I feel like I belong now, but I had a similar story at the beginning. So I joined NSA a long, long time ago, not Georgia, but the national. A long, long time ago, I was 5. And when I went, there were no people that I really, that's not true. There were not no people, double negative, but I was very young. And most of the people were very, as you said, seasoned.
I
TM
didn't
uses that
say
word on
the
me sometimes.
word.
Season. Thank you. And I thought maybe there's not a place for me here. And this is really, really interesting because I had a throwback. How many of you went to Influence this summer when we had our anniversary and all of that? And they put a lot of the videos up. Influence, for those that are new or might be visiting with us, is our national conference. And we meet every summer. It's usually in July. This time it's going to be in August in Colorado. And we have a winter conference called Thrive. So that's another piece. But we were at that and they did a lot of throwbacks. They showed a lot of people that had started NSA and started us and told us where we found our values and how we got here. And there, when I was at that first time, and I'm thinking, I got nobody. This is the big conference. And then I'm sitting there and all of a sudden the first keynote finished and this guy goes up and starts playing the piano. And he starts playing a song about what that speaker just said. And it was improv. And it was, so I know this guy. Wait a minute. I know this guy, and he's blind, and he's playing what this person just heard. I know that guy because he used to play at little college venues. When I was in my campus ministry, he would play. Ken Miedema. I don't know if you know the name. I'm sitting at Influence this summer. Ken Miedema is on that stage again. Ken Miedema told the story about what story he just heard, what resonated for him, and he did it with music. Full circle. Years later, if you told me back when I first saw him and I'm in the back and I'm like, yeah, I took off my name tag the second day because people would just come and go, hey, Jeannie, you don't know me. I want you to know me. I feel like I know you now. So thank you for being NSA Georgia, part of National Speakers Association National. And that's our here today. Candace Dobie, our president-elect. I'm Jeannie Snyder, your current president. And we are thrilled that y'all are here today on this weekend. So we are going to, I'd like to, we're going to welcome everybody in a minute because all are welcome. Our Zoomies, I love seeing your Zoomies out there. That's what I call what my dog does when he runs around the house too. So, but you're Zoomers. And hey, Pam Robinson, we're good to see you. We've got a great crowd on Zoom today. Do I see David Raymond? Wow, we're flying in people from all over the country now. So I'm glad that you're here, but all are welcome. And you might not walk in and see us holding a sign that says that, but we hope you'll feel it. We hope it'll resonate with you. We want to welcome all of our NSA Georgia human members and guests. Do you know what we're talking about today? We're talking about technology and the human touch. How can one person have all that stuff in her head? Well, there's even more in that head. And being with Kate yesterday, we are optimistic because you are here, because she was supposed to be here last weekend, and we were supposed to be here last weekend. And I am so grateful for all of you who shifted things to be here, because you do not want to miss being in the room with Kate O'Neill. We welcome her as our guest keynote, and she will not be wearing that outfit today. But we are glad that you were able to be here and be in the future with us 1 week later. This is nothing short of a miracle that this would all fall into place. I shoot the Zoom. I think all the Zoom. Okay, David Raymond, I'm gonna have to call you out. You're the only one. I know why Richard Harden is not on screen. Thank you, Richard, for not being on screen while you're driving to us. He will be here in person, but we would love. Kate wants to see you. And as you know, have you done some little research on Kate? One of her books is The Future So Bright. Have you got your sunglasses ready? It's going to be big. And the person who's always thinking the future, Rich Hart. I want y'all to particularly give Rich Hart and his team a hand today. Between November, December, and January, we have had so many changes to what we have asked of this team and of this studio. We never take it for granted. We feel like we're in the future when we get to be at the Rich Hart Global Studio. So Rich, team, Sammy, everybody, thank you so much. I don't know where everybody is. I can't see out there. But thank you for being here. I'd like to thank our board. You have seen Candace and me today. Where'd she go? She went to the future. Okay, so we are here. If you are one of our board members that's here today, and because of our switch, we've got a lot of people speaking today that plan their speech, so we know some of them aren't here. But if you're here and on our board, please stand. This is Derek Grissom, our director of NSA Culture, NSA Georgia Culture. Pam Linemiller, our immediate past president, our interim treasurer, and about 400 other things. Tyran Jackson, you're going to see him in just a minute, our director of member outreach. Leslie Gordon is our director of operations, back there by the coffee. Let's see, Judy Herman is in the middle of our Zoomers there. She is our director of member engagement, as you can tell. And do we have anybody else here? But all the others are speaking today. So with the changes, but they have all been involved. And that's Siobhan Reed, our marketing director, and Christy Renee is our director of content strategy. And who am I leaving out? And Richard Harden is on the way, and you're going to hear about him in a minute. He's our director of speaker education. So I would like to now invite Tyran Jackson, Leslie Gordon, and Judy. You can chime in from the Zoom room. If you'll be coming to the stage. Members are our future. I'd like to tell you what took the longest. We had a lot of changes. We had to do a lot of logistics. Kate had to change flights. We changed hotels. We changed everything. But the deck took the longest. Why? Because we have the great privilege of introducing 14 new members that have joined us in November and December. And that's not counting the 3 that have already joined in January, who we introduce next month. 14 new members? Are you kidding me? I'd like to thank all of you. It takes a village. And so, Tyran, if we want to welcome those members, and those are our November ones. And I think the slide says November twice, but it's really November, December. We're doing good just to be here, y'all.
Jeannie, thank you for all that. And NSA Georgia, thank you all. For those of you who have been members for a long time, you've been coming, you've been supporting, you've been seeing all the amazing things that we're doing. For those of you who are new to us, I'm excited, as Candace and Jeannie were talking about, how we're taking these steps into the future and how there's so many great things in the culture and the atmosphere of NSA Georgia is moving in the right direction. I think it's great to get more blood, more new blood, and more new perspectives, thoughts, and involvement. And so with that, like Jeannie said, we're excited to have so many new people join us and be able to give their contributions throughout this chapter. So with that said, and Dr. Leslie, I just want to say she has done an amazing. I'll stop. Go ahead. I don't want to. I don't want to take all the.
You live up to your purpose once in a while.
So without too much further ado, what I want to do is acknowledge every new member that we've had in November and December. If you're here, please come up give us a line about yourself, introduce yourself briefly, and one line about what you speak about. And we have the honor of being able to give you your official NSA Georgia badge. So with that said, for our November members, new members, I want to identify Brenda Bonilla, who isn't here today, Ifat Walker, Kim Wash Phillips, Jacob Nertoski, okay, Sawan Chandler Ward.
Sawan was going to be here last week, but she couldn't
Yeah.
make this.
We've had a lot of people shift, unfortunately, but still, we want to make sure that you recognize them and you see their beautiful faces on the screen. So when they are here, we want you to see them and greet them as such. Atune Fowoli and Scott Lehman. These are our new members that joined in November. Yeah, thank you. 7, that is a great, by all means.
I just wanted to tell you that we know these people already. Usually when we start doing this stuff, we're like, oh, it's so nice to meet you. We know them. Either Tyran or Judy has stalked them, or they jumped in. The minute I mean, okay, I don't know how you are, but when you get an email and a new client or somebody that's joined your community and you don't know where they came from, aren't you so excited when you wake up and you're like, wait, how did I get that email from them? How did they buy that thing from me? Whatever it is. That's how NSA Georgia is now. We're waking up and all of a sudden Jessica Kennison and our admin team are sending us stuff to say, welcome to the new 3. While I'm sitting at dinner with Kate last night, 3. All right. So there's a lot going on. Y'all are doing an amazing job. All right. So none of those folks. We'll go to the November the 2nd, which is really December.
We're going to go to December, but before we do that, just to piggyback off what you said, Jeannie, one of the great things that we're doing to integrate people into what we're doing as new members, and I've got to acknowledge Judy Herman, because one of the things that we've been doing is having a new member orientation meeting. So as you come into NSA Georgia, you're not just lost and waiting for someone to try to point you in the right direction. We're here to help facilitate that move where you're being involved, you're understanding what areas you can contribute, what activities we got going on. Some of the amazing items, such as the vault, where you can see past speakers, such as some of the trainings where you can see, such as Pam, show people how to use e-speakers. All of these things that you might not know as soon as you join NSA Georgia if we weren't doing these things now. So we want to make it easier to not only become a part of NSA Georgia, but to actually get the most benefit out of it once you come in. So all of these new members have had the opportunity to either be a part of one of these orientations or will be in the future. But this is a thing that we're going to do on a monthly basis for all the new members. And hopefully we'll continue to have 7 new members a month like we have been. But with that said, I want to go on to the next month, the ones that we've had over the course of December. So as I call your name, if you are here, by all means come up. Dr. Bill Lyday, David Lawhorn, Dr. Yannick Hicks, and Yannick, I think you're here, if you don't mind.
Welcome up.
Stephanie Graham, who isn't here. Tom Willard, yeah, come on up. Tom, thank you.
Welcome, Tom.
Don't be shy, it's a pleasure.
We're family, but not like that.
And the last couple that I want to identify is Daniel Grissom, who isn't here today, and Dr. Colleen Seringer, who is here. So with that, by all means, come up.
Welcome to NSA Georgia. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Yannick. I'm originally from Cameroon, but I've been in the U.S. for a while. Actually went to University of Georgia, but I'm part of Maxwell Leadership. And Audrey, I've been part of Maxwell Leadership for over 6 years. Just moved to Georgia back from Arizona, but Audrey is part of Maxwell. She invited me, came in November. I liked what I saw. Hey, let's get on the roll.
Yeah.
Love it. Welcome. So glad you're here. Tom, tell us a little bit about Tom.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Tom Wilner. I am a musician and a cancer survivor. And when I was going through my cancer experience, I wrote a musical about it and have since used that to teach people about the patient experience and compassion for others and the life lessons I learned going through a life-threatening illness. And so it's really kind of about persistence and resilience. And I joined NSA Georgia because I really want to expand on what I've been doing the past few years with that. And great to be here.
Fantastic. So happy to have you. Thank you so much. Colleen, welcome.
So this is so crazy. I know Tom. We worked at the American Cancer Society together and had no idea that he was going to be here. So it's so fun. So Colleen Seringer. So the focus of what I'm speaking on is mental health in the workplace, specifically around workplace culture and climate, which are two very different things, but we typically lend to culture only. And the way that I found out about NSA is I actually was in New Jersey. I went to check out a different public speaking organization and mastermind, and I was on the bus ride from the rental car drop off coming back to get back to Atlanta. And there was a guy that had just spoken to IKEA. And I had shared with him, I'm ready to jump into my public speaking career. And he said, well, there's one piece of advice I'm going to give you is find your local NSA chapter and join it. And so I did. So here I am. I'm happy to be here. I have to look at his, I have his promo. He talks about like purple goldfish, like lots of goldfish colors. I don't know. So here I am. Yeah, he's from Raleigh.
Yeah.
I'll stalk him. Yeah, I'll bring his thing next time. So yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Welcome. Welcome to all of the new members. Super excited to have you as part of NSA Georgia.
All righty. Thank you. We're going to talk about new member rotation and bring Judy in.
Okay. Yes, so before we get off the stage, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, for those of you who are new members or those of you who are considering membership and want to join, myself and Judy Herman, who is driving the Zoom right now, we do have our new member orientation. And in this new member orientation, we, like I said, we make the first steps of becoming a part of NSA Georgia even easier by showing you some of the right people to connect with, showing you some of the benefits of being a part of NSA Georgia, and pointing you in the right direction to be able to get the resources and information that you need. So this is something that we do. And Judy, say hey over Zoom if you don't mind. So
Hey,
everybody.
Hey, yes, I am so excited. Like it's so cool to see the people that we've met walk across the stage. Just like
They're
really, really
actually
cool.
real
And I-
people. It's very exciting. They're humans.
They
They're
are.
humans. And we have technology. See, it's all working. It's all working.
Yes, it's a real joy to be in this position and meet folks, and it's really cool. So thanks. Over to you there, Tyran. You're doing great.
No problem. Thank you, Judy. Thank you. And
Back to you, Tyran.
yeah. So one other thing, for those of you who have joined over the course of the past several months, feel free to join any of the additional new member orientations. And if you've even been apart for a while, we don't mind you joining either. We have these meetings the second Thursday of every month, and you'll see the emails promoting them. But like I said, it makes it easier to fully get integrated into NSA. So with that, thank you again for everyone who has joined, and thank you for those who have helped get people into the building so they will be a part of NSA Georgia. So
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Tyran. Yes, everybody is doing such an amazing job. I've never had 14 people introduce new members at the same time. And if you notice the diversity of our group, and I mean, we got a lot of doctors joining us. Some are MDs, some are PharmDs, some are PhDs, but they're also from different places. Y'all, from that screen, I can't remember what everybody is, but we've got a gastroenterologist, we've got a PharmD, we've got an acupuncturist, we've got, Colleen, I don't know what your PhD's in. What's yours in? In what? Exercise psychology. Yeah, I mean, you basically can just live here. Everybody, they can take care of everything. And that brings me to the next happiest hour we've got coming up. This Thursday, we've been having an amazing job. And I want to explain okay, this is inside scoop. What we do on all these teams and committees and all the volunteers and what you do at the doors and what you do at all of these events is what makes these 14 people find us. What we do in a happy hour, which we started this year again, doing them specifically as more recruitment events. These are free, buy your own drink and bring somebody, but this is where people get to come and actually have a conversation. The energy that's been at the happy hours or the coffees, as you may or may not know, we are intentionally doing these on the third week of the month, and we're mixing it up. We're sometimes doing hoppy hours, sometimes doing happy hours, sometimes doing coffees, and sometimes doing lunches, and we're moving them around the metro Atlanta area. Be ready. We're about to make that circle bigger because we just had a big intersection on, what were we on? The new member orientation, I think. We got people living in Sonoy and Noonan. We're about to go statewide. So get ready for that. Our happy hour is Thursday night. And Derek, where are you? Derek, oh, of course you're at the bar. All right. So tell us, what are we doing Thursday night? There's a red mic right there. If you want to just speak for just a second about our happy hour. I'm so sorry.
All right. Hello, Derek Grissom, Director of Culture. On Thursday evening, we're going to be at South City in Buckhead. And this is an opportunity
South
for
City Kitchen.
South City Kitchen, thank you, Jenny, in Buckhead. It's an opportunity for us to come, mingle, network, fellowship with each other outside of our traditional meeting, and really get to understand all these doctors and high-end and middle-end positions. Also, but here's the big thing. Many of us have our own businesses and speaking businesses. It gives you an opportunity to really talk to other people who are doing what you're trying to do or can help you enhance it. So it's a very good opportunity, and I hope to see you there.
It's part of our culture club. Thank you so much, Derek. All right, we hope you see you. Remember to register. If you don't register, come on anyway, because they don't even know we're coming. You know, we just sort of show up. But we do this intentionally, not in a private room. We want to be out in the restaurants or in the coffee shop so people see us, because as anybody who's been there, haven't you gotten questions when you leave? You're like, wait, what are y'all? What are y'all? We're speaker people. One of our first ones last June that we did, I think in Midtown, and I'm going down the elevator and this guy goes, "What are y'all?" And I said, "We're speakers." I said, "What are you?" And he said, "I'm a speaker." And I said, "We're with the National Speakers Association. Who are you?" I feel like I'm on my first eHarmony date with my husband. And I said, and he goes, and he was a national speaker. And he hadn't heard about us. Now, I felt a little better. He didn't live in our town. He was in town for a speaking engagement. So we never know where those intersections are going to happen. All right, if you have not joined us, if you haven't gone to our website where there's a lot of good stuff, that's a QR code if you need to pull your phone out, or you know where to find us, nsageorgia.org. All right, Candace, tell us about what's coming up next month.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for next month, and I want you all to be so excited too. Yes, because our current cohort, our September 2023 cohort, is going to be graduating, so to speak, graduating next month, and we're ending with a big bang, which is their speaker showcase. So on February the 3rd, first Saturday in February, our speakers, and I want you to stand up right now if you are a part of the current cohort. Yes.
Amanda May Gray, Bruce LaFetra, Derek Grissom, Sylvia Moore Myers. Anybody else?
Dr. Tracy,
where are
she might
ya?
be out of the room. Okay.
Oh, Dr. Tracy Powell.
But these are the speakers in the room right now who are going to be showcasing on this stage. So for 10 minutes, each of them are going to get a segment, a slot where they showcase the speech that they've been working on for the last 4 months. There's a 3-camera shoot. They get excellent video from this, and we're just all so excited. They couldn't have gotten to the point that they're going to be at, which you will all see next month because you'll all be here, without their fearless leader, Richard Harden. Thank you so much. We got to give a shout out to Richard, who has been helping them every single step of the way. And so after our meeting's over today, they're actually doing their dress rehearsal to get ready for
Show
next
them some
week.
love.
So
Show them some love.
Yes. So what we would love more than anything is for you all to make sure you're back in here next month so we can have a full audience for them. All these seats can be filled for their video. Also want to give a shout out to
mention the
who?
other two people that were Michael Wilkinson, and do not cry for him. He's in Jamaica.
No.
And who else? And Shantae
Shantae.
Hooks. And so she'll be here this afternoon. So she's on her way, I'm sure. So did Dr. Tracy walk back in? Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
But we'll give her a
Well,
shout
y'all,
out when she comes back in.
I want to kind of give a little backstage of what's going on right now. That sounds really fun. And they're doing their dress rehearsal. And won't that be fun to get their video? They're sweating, okay? They're sweating. And no technology is going to take that away. But I would just like to say, Richard, thank you for getting this cohort to where they are now, because they're usually sweating like this 2 days before their actual showcase, and they are so ready. They're already getting their 59th practice in. We ran to Sylvia in the hotel last night, and she's like, I said, "Well, what'd you do last night?" And she said, "I stood in my room and practiced my speech over and over and over and over and over and over and over." So that's kind of what you're doing. So if you see them looking like deer in the headlights, just give them a second to actually realize you're there.
Now, if you are interested in really taking your speaking level to another level, your speaking career, speaking business
Into the
thank you.
future.
Into the future, if you're a new speaker and you want to exponentially, get through that growing curve or learning curve of how do you even do this, Speaker Academy is definitely a program that you should consider. I joined 2 years before I became an actual professional speaker, and I got all the goods, all the information about how do you market this thing, how do you zone in or hone in on your topic, how do you, all of the details of how to build a business is what I got in that program. And so if you're interested in really going forward a lot faster than you would on your own, then we want you to consider this program, which actually starts, the next cohort starts in March. So we want you to just put March in your brain, in your mind, if it's something that you're considering, and you can come see either of us at the end of the meeting or during the break, or Richard, to learn more
Richard
about
or
it.
any of the Speaker Academy folks. So we'll be watching the website, watching your social media, watching your newsletters, which I'm so thrilled that our marketing team, Tiffany Fambro and Siobhan Reed, have been doing an amazing job with our new format of our newsletter. Have you enjoyed it? It works. The links actually work. It's good. I heard one patter of applause. Lisa, thank you so much. Could I get a little bit more? Okay. That's a lot of work. A lot of work goes into that. So I want you to be looking forward to really thinking about, is it time for you to do Speaker Academy? And I mean, even if you're seasoned, you may want to come back, because what you get out of this and how, I'll tell the story that Michael told this week. I'm on the lovely text thread with all the Speaker Academy folks. And all of a sudden, Michael said, okay, I can't be at this today, but I'm going to Jamaica. However, 30 minutes before I got on the plane or something, a new client called and he said, because of what I learned in Speaker Academy, I pulled out that contract format, that kind of template that Richard had given us. I was able to turn that around and send it to the client. And then was to Jamaica. Don't you want that life? Okay, here we go. All right. We also have coming up every month. And, Cricket, I repeated this one because I just loved you sitting in that car so much. That was January's graphic, but I just couldn't let it go. I put a heart on it. But we have a member mastermind every first Friday of the month, except for this month because we're changing everything around this month. It was second Friday. It was yesterday. And I loved what Cricket said today. Cricket Harrison leads it, and she's also leader of the National Speakers Association Power Women group. So you can also join that if you're a member of National. But she was saying that everybody that joined yesterday, you were the seasoned one, Lisa. And Lisa, you joined us when? September, October. So it was all new members. And she said the conversation was so great because people really brought to the table what they were struggling with and trying to figure out. So member mastermind, exclusive benefit for members only. Don't miss it. It's a great conversation. You can talk about anything, really. All right. I'm going to introduce the next person, who's also one of our newer members, T.M. Hyman. And so, TM, if you can start, I know you don't move fast, but you can start working your way to the stage. And TM is someone that I have met in a weird way. So TM, I met on Clubhouse. We're one of the weird 4 a.m., 5 a.m. people that's on Clubhouse. And we met because we have an alignment with, and see, he's fixing the chair. I didn't do it right. Okay, so, and Leadership on Demand is the name of just one of his companies. So TM joined us after I stalked him for a little while, but fair play, right? Fair play, because I stalked you kind of a long time. So have a seat, TM Hyman. And we met there, and then we've done some things together. So this is a picture of, did I bring the clicker? I didn't. One moment, please. Here we go. This is when I was stalking him, and several of you I stalked as well, who helped us with a TEDx that we produced and emceed and curated. And TM was one of our coaches for that. And then I stalked him and said, well, okay, how about NSA Georgia? That one took a little longer. And then finally I said, you don't want to miss this speaker. I don't remember when it was. And I said, I need you to show up. Oh, it's Showcase. You came to Showcase last year. And I said, you need to see Showcase. And he was in after that. Took him a little while, but just tell, where did that other mic go? Here we go. One moment. We got technical difficulties. Let's see. We're in the future. If we were in the future, you'd already have that mic.
Thank you so much.
So when we got to be friends, I started calling us Chat TMG. So that's what we're going to do today, is have a little a little chat about you and what in the world. You can tell your story any way you want. Of how did you, what did you think about NSA Georgia? How did you finally join? What does it have to do with you and what you're doing in your world? Stalking Humans works, y'all. Okay, this is his real picture, but it's got a little AI in there, I think. So you can talk about that too.
Wow, so much to unpack there.
So much. It's a lot. It's a lot with Jeannie. I know.
So much. Dr. Jeannie started investing in me, specific to Georgia NSA.
That's so sweet. You've called
right?
it stalking, and now you're calling it
Listen,
investing.
she started investing
Wow.
in me after the stalking. After the stalking, I met Dr. Jeannie Snyder in Lexington, Kentucky, concluding the production of a video.
We were in a music video together.
A music video. We were producing a music video together, and there were about maybe 150 people on this set. And it was cut, and people started scattering in different parts of downtown Lexington to get food. And Dr. Jeannie was on the side of me, and I look, and I don't know this person, and she's on the
Say,
side
this
of me.
person, that's not what you said.
And I look, and she's still there, but she's asking questions. Have you ever been on the street with someone who just rolls up on the side of you and just starts asking you random questions? That's Dr. Jeannie. And the next thing I knew, we found ourselves in a vault, a bank vault, eating.
Explain that's in a
dinner.
restaurant. It was a restaurant, not we weren't in a
We
bank.
weren't
vault,
trying
we
to
were a
rob a
restaurant.
bank, no.
That kind of investing.
We found ourselves with some friends that we met on Clubhouse. Shout out to Clubhouse. I just met Bruce for the first time. Georgia NSA. I've never
you've
gone
known Bruce's
into
voice and
a
his
meeting,
words, but
and
not
I met
him.
2 Bruces in the room at one time.
Yep.
Bruce and, well, they might be 3 Bruces.
We had a Bruce month, and all we recruited were Bruces
Bruce
that
and
month.
Bruce, absolutely. Clubhouse. She had been listening on Clubhouse. A lot of us that were in Lexington was from Clubhouse. And we found ourselves having dinner with some friends in a Chinese restaurant. And it was a bank vault. The special part of this restaurant was a bank vault. And we have been lockstep ever since. She started investing in me by asking me to come to Georgia NSA. And I'll tell you, I attend a lot of meetings. I'm a part of a lot of organizations. I lead organizations.
He rolled his eyes at me. He's like, really, what's there?
I was like, what's next, Dr. Jeannie? What's next? Wherever she invites me, it's value. I can tell you that it's value. And when I came here, there was tons of value. And I came back again, and I met Tyran, and I came back again. And then I met more people, and I came back again. And what I could say, it was never stale. This meeting is never stale. I remember your presentation. One of June's presentations, she had me cracking up laughing, right?
That's her goal.
And so I joined out of relationship. I just have to be honest, right? Everything that most of us do is relationship. And I'm not sure I would be a member if Dr. Jeannie Snyder wasn't the president of Georgia NSA right now.
But why are you, thank you for that. Why do you need this? What's your business? What are you doing?
Yeah.
How do you speak? What is, because
Yeah.
you're a I used to say I was psycho, but now they call us multi-passionate.
Well, that's probably why we are in the same tribe. Multi-passionate. Well, I started off in radio. My first job ever was paperboy. Like I delivered newspapers at the age of 12. I've always had a job, right? My parents were entrepreneurs, and they wanted me to understand that, listen, this is not free. You have to work, right? And so from that, I became a DJ, WOWI Norfolk 103 Jams Radio. That went on to I became a music producer, television. But today, I am a neuro-linguistic practitioner, right? I believe that language impacts our emotions.
Do we know what that is? Does everybody
Right,
know what that
NLP,
is?
neuro-linguistic practitioner,
Which
right?
means
Which means that I help people to connect language with their attitudes, right? Their brain, and ultimately how language impacts our behavior in our attitudes in our behavior. And when you understand the connection between brain and attitude, right, and language, I help people to overcome limiting beliefs, strengthen their communication, and achieve goals. I've been in business for years, but last year I took a leap of faith. After I became NLP certified, right, that's what NLP does. It opens up your mind. What I realized was that I had a fear. And I help people to overcome fear, right? I've been a mentor and a coach for years, but last year I uncovered that I had a fear that was tied to, wait for it, wait for it, a safety net in my corporate job. I had a fear that if I didn't stay in corporate, that I wouldn't be successful because my corporate job funded all of my other businesses and products and projects. As I see a lot of nodding heads, I'm not solo. But I'll tell
getting
you,
a lot of
I'm
nodding
not sure
heads on
about you.
that.
I'm not sure about you because I'll tell you, I was not prepared. My team was not prepared. I led at a very high level. I managed centers all over the country. And no one was prepared for me to walk away. I wasn't prepared. I'll tell you, we think it, but when the opportunity presents itself, how many of us are ready to take the leap, make the jump? Y'all like, not me. Listen, I made the jump last December 31st.
31st.
Last December 31st, it was the last day of the year, and nobody knew. That's how hard, it was an internal war. And
But you've been talking about it for a very long time.
I
So what
had been, but
made
I
you
didn't know I was going to actually do it.
right? So what made you make the jump? I was talking with Kate. We were talking about how we got into speaking yesterday, and it wasn't necessarily always the fully planned
It
piece.
wasn't
So
planned.
what made, I want you to segue from that into what made you jump from there, but also knowing what you were going to do in the future. What about speaking? What about linking all of your different entrepreneurial ventures together?
Yeah, well, I had been on Clubhouse for about 3 years. And although I've been leading leaders forever, it's still not speaking professionally as a job, right? We do PowerPoint presentations in front of VPs, right? I'm managing millions of dollars in budget, right? But it's different to say, okay, I want to do this full time. Clubhouse prepared me. Done so much speaking. I started a club that spun out of Breakfast with Champions.
But
Dr.
y'all know what
Jeannie and
Clubhouse
I,
is? An
Dr.
audio
Jeannie and
app.
I, yeah, it's a,
And so you don't have to have your hair done. You just got to be on there and have your voice going. It's the importance of the voice.
and we are up 5 o'clock in the morning on Breakfast with Champions. These are leaders, business owners from all over the world. The club is about probably now almost 200,000. But I started a leadership club, Leadership on Demand. And that's why it was so cool to connect with Bruce, because Bruce is in another club on Sundays, and Bruce just told me in the back, Michael always says what he gets out of your room when he starts his room. But that's the power of Clubhouse, right? And so as a speaker, as a leader, I was successful in my corporate job, but I knew there was more.
What do you want to get out of
I
NSA
knew there was
Georgia?
more.
Why here? Why these people? Why connect with us?
It's to learn. It's to be amongst other dynamic speakers. Every time I've come here, I have learned something, right? And I think it's important as leaders that they say leadership can be a lonely place. I've learned that leadership is only a lonely place when you're not bringing people along with you. And so
Soundbite.
for me, you know, for me, I want to be amongst, right? I'm typically pouring into people. I do it for hours and hours and hours weekly. But when you can come into a space and get poured into, it helps you to continue on. And that's why I'm here at Georgia NSA.
Well, we're glad you're here at NSA Georgia.
NSA Georgia.
Yeah.
Keep me
So
straight.
yeah, if you're gonna like be our poster child, you got to talk about it. Okay, so I'm so happy that you got to meet T.M. Hyman today, and he's just one of you. All of you, each of you could be on this stage at different times. We work really hard to get a lot of people every month up here on the stage, but I also want to give you an opportunity to think about why are you in NSA Georgia? And if you'd like to talk about that, go to our newsletter, go to our website, and you can tell our content strategy people, Christy Renee and Siobhan Reed, that you'd like to have a spotlight to talk about some of the same things. So TM Hyman, thank you for being here today. I'm so glad you're here. Y'all, I am so glad that we are here, that it's worked out with all the changes that we've talked about. I am particularly thrilled that I'm not introducing you yet. Kate's like, wait, not yet, right? But that Kate O'Neill is in the room. I was really, Pam and Candace and I were talking, I'm like, we want Kate in the room. We don't want to, even though she's technology queen, we don't want to just kind of have that online experience, because she is all about technology and the human touch. She's going to be talking to us later after the break about leading the tech humanist future. And Kate, I mean, how's it feeling for you back there? I mean, you feeling good being here?
It's a vibe in here.
It's a
Yeah,
vibe.
absolutely.
It's a vibe. What did we say, Derek? When we added the director of NSA culture to the board this year, because I said I need a director of vibe, and I don't think I can call it that. I don't know if National will let it, but I want a director of vibe. So we finally came up with culture. It took us a while to get there, and that is, I love that you say that, because it's a vibe. It really is. Anything else you want to tell us? Like, was it worth it? Like doing all the changes and getting here for us?
Of course. I'm thrilled with everybody I've met today.
So-
And I mean, just to hear TM too, that was fantastic.
And then there's TM. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, ice on the cake. Well, I'm going to tell you another bonus we're getting today, that I am just grateful that he said yes. Not my husband, her husband. Keep your seats. Kate has brought us a bonus NSA Georgia moment, and I'd like to introduce Robbie Quinn. If you'd please come to the stage. So grab that gray mic. All right.
Check.
All righty. So this is a real surprise, but it just, you know how these weird intersections and connections, I talk about it all the time. That's kind of my vibe. And it's just interesting how things come together. And so there's a lot here that we could talk to Robbie about for, I don't know, 4 months and not leave the stage except for bio breaks. But he is such an interesting guy. And I actually, I met Kate and Robbie separately. So my friend, I see Pete, excuse me, she got married, which we were involved with their marriage. Peg Maynard Pete is there. She's probably not gonna come on camera. She's rolling her eyes at me now behind that screen, I can tell. But Peg is a good friend of ours, and she said, hey, I've met this photographer, some guy in Nashville. I'm gonna have some shots done with him. And then I think his wife's a speaker like you. She said, I don't understand what you do, but I think she does the same thing that I don't understand. And so we were going to Influence in Dallas, I think is where we met. And so I'm texting this woman, and like, you don't know me, but, and she doesn't know Peg, and we don't know, and all these connections. And so Kate and I met there in Dallas at Influence. So then later on, and I actually was emailing with you because she doesn't know how to do technology. Peg does it. She would admit that.
Okay.
And so I'm the person you emailed that stuff to a long time ago when you took her shots so that I could load them out of Dropbox.
Sure.
So anyway, I want to tell you about what I know about Robbie Quinn, but more than that, I want him to tell you what he does. And today he said he was here as Mr.
Oh, yes. I'm not just today.
All days. You're Mr.
Every day. I'm
Mr. Kate
I'm
O'Neill.
Mr. Kate O'Neill.
Yeah. So he, I
Very
love
proud of
how
that.
he writes. And if you'll see his social posts, I've noticed he says, well, I'm in, Bangkok or something, and I'm supporting my wife, Kate O'Neill. And I might have a couple of extra photo shots, that I can do. I'm here working. So he is the consummate photographer. And when I say that, we're not talking to a headshot guy. Can you do those? Yes. We're talking to a guy who sees the world differently. And from the moment that Peg sent me a link and said, hey, I'm thinking about having some photographs made with this guy in Nashville, which is where they were at the time, I've been mesmerized by his photography. I want to show you a little bit of it. And then I don't think it's any accident that on this weekend where we're talking about all are welcome, we've got one of the consummate photographers who sees people so differently and into their soul and somehow captures that. So explain, what do you do?
Well,
We have a hard time as speakers figuring that out. Tell us what you do.
so I'm a full-time commercial photographer, mainly like as a band might be big in Japan. I'm like big on LinkedIn. A lot of
Wait, can we back up? He was in a band. He showed me his big hair last night on a picture.
long time ago. But as anybody that is either a solopreneur or just doing your own gig there, you're going to have downtime because a lot of times, anybody in the speaker world, you have seasons. You may do 3 talks a week, and then maybe none for 2 weeks. You may do 5 talks in a week and then maybe none for 2 weeks. What do you do when you're not doing that? Well, I see firsthand, Kate, there's writing books and, working on their presentation and everything like that. Likewise, a photographer is a solopreneur. And like an athlete, you want to stay sharp. You have a lot of work and then not so much. And I've been fortunate living in New York that there's all kinds of things to photograph and kind of work out, train. And when I moved back 8 years ago, I think, I don't know how long ago it's been, but we'll say that long. I'd just go out on the street and I'd photograph bicycles, architecture, whatever. But I'm a portrait photographer. And so I started seeing people that were interesting to me and just started approaching them and asking you, may I photograph you? And they're very quick street photos. And I did that for a while. And then I started interviewing the people and asking them their stories behind their style. And I realized that, you had asked me to talk, especially on the occasion of or as we celebrate Dr. King, that I started seeing a lot of diversity and seeing the inclusion that happens in New York, and that their stories were the really compelling thing for me. And as people that are in the corporate world, they're looking to check a box or do something politically correct. I noticed that all these interactions, that they were like opportunities. I grew immensely learning about various things, and not just race, but immigration and ageism, um, and LGBTQ community. And I feel like that any of us, whether you're working on your team, if you have, you're building up as you become more successful as a speaker, that you're going to have assistants, you're going to have a team that you work on with marketing and everything, that you look at that and, it's so easy to just find people that look like us, act like us, and 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 say exactly what we're going to say, bringing sometimes not much to the conversation. And the opportunity to grow and to become more and to share and to celebrate, these are all things so that, if as you do that, not only your team, I see that it's being done here within your group. Also, when you're looking at opportunities where you're going to speak, it doesn't always have to be the ideal fit. You'd be surprised. I know that I've seen Kate get in front of audiences where I'm like, really? You know, that they're going to be interested in technology. And in one sense, that everybody's interested. It's the buzz, AI, what's happening now and everything. But I would, um, I would challenge everybody in the room that, if you are feeling like what you're talking about, that it's meaningful and you're passionate about it, it's probably passionate and meaningful to everyone. And you don't want to limit yourself to audiences celebrate everything that you're doing. And as you do, you will be rewarded not only financially, but with these experiences, and that you just become the best version of yourself that you can be. And that's what's happened to me. I'm looking This is the cover of
So tell us how
a
you
book.
captured all this.
Yeah,
How did you
so
capture all this? Because we have a lot of ideas. We come up with speech after speech. The only thing harder than being a speaker is being married to one. So you watch us, so
oh yeah,
we do all these things, and it's hard to sometimes all these ideas we have. It's hard to capture it into one talk. Or what is that next lane? I'm constantly every morning. My husband, I've been up for a few hours when he comes in, maybe an hour and a half, and he comes in. I'm like, okay, so here's what I'm thinking about today. I'm thinking about is this, and he goes, is that in the lane we talked about yesterday? So how did you take even in your work, and I'd love for you to talk about being, you understand our world a bit. How'd you take all those things you just saw that you said was street photography, capture it into a project like a book, and then how does that affect, help us when we're trying to capture all these ideas we have into one kind of lane? You took quite diverse things you were seeing and yet made them one book.
sure, sure. So, and I think this is important. Anybody that is an entrepreneur, one of the biggest reasons why in another life, I was an entrepreneur, more conventional
Aren't
with
you
a
now?
business. Yes, I am.
Okay.
But in the more typical sense that people would consider. Uh, but I feel like, uh, everything works different for different people. Everybody has their own path. But I do see a trend that when somebody wants to be an entrepreneur, they have it. You probably people came here to this group and they're like, I think I'm going to speak about blank, and they're an entrepreneur that fails is somebody that has it all completely laid out, and when they hit a roadblock, sometimes they can't get past that roadblock, and that's the end. But if you're open and you feed off of each other's energy and you share, you have brainstorming and things just can sometimes click and you go with the flow. And um, maybe through these growing experiences, sharing with people and being open to diversity and equity and inclusion, that that it'll spawn something completely new. For me, um, my deal was I was just looking to stay sharp on a day off, and especially during COVID, some of those days became more and more. And but I noticed that people really wanted to um, they wanted to be around other people. And I had already been doing this before COVID. I would just walk the streets, and if I saw somebody really unique, I would just there'd be something genuine in me that would be there was something particular that attracted me to them, and I would ask them, I love your shoes. May I photograph you? And eh,
I just
sure.
love that some people were dressing up during COVID because I never went out on the streets looking that
Well,
good.
well, we
You know?
we all started, just wearing like,
Whatever was next.
whatever kind of thing that we could put in front of our face, a mask and everything. But I found during COVID that the mask actually became a fashion accessory. There were,
Love it.
they put some bling on it, and
That's right.
we wanted people want to express who they are, and I would say that. I'm not a fashion expert of sorts, but who you are inside when you're deciding what you're going to wear on the stage, it should be in line with your message, but more importantly, who you are and expressing your own individuality. And but what would happen to me is I was photographing all of these people, and then people just started asking me, "When's the book? When's the book?" And
I love that.
and I was like,
I love
wow, I
that.
think I might have a book. And I was thinking, this is just going to be something that I self-publish. I was very, very fortunate. Somebody that I had photographed early in the series, I became friends with them. On one level or another, I'm friends with everybody that I photographed. There's like a connection that's made. And but one of them had been a art director at the New York Times for like 30 years, and she said,
That's a good connection.
I want to be a part of this. I want to help you lay it out." And but then when COVID hit, she wasn't able to, and I had to go a more conventional route. Kate actually introduced me to a guy that does.
We got to wrap.
Yeah,
You're cutting
he
into your wife's
pitches.
time.
Okay,
Yeah.
we
So
don't want to do that.
anyway,
but
I've
that
been
was it.
trying to do like the, the edge up things and all that.
That's
I
great.
could you not talk to Robbie Quinn for hours and days and weeks? Robbie
Thank
Quinn,
you.
thank you for being here. He reminds us, see what you see. See what you see. Where on the stage, what's in here? Robbie Quinn, I am so thrilled that you're here for this program with Kate, and thank you for being a part of our program. All right, Stalking Unicorns works, guys. You never know. We're going to take a 10-minute break. And if we could come back literally at 10 minutes, can we do 10 minutes? Quick bio break. Grab a coffee, be back in your seats. We want to give Kate all the time that she can have. If you're back earlier, we'll start earlier. Be ready, show up, and we are going to get ready for KO Insights with Kate O'Neill. We can add some fun music now, Sammy.
We are so glad you guys are all here this morning. And Peg, welcome. We didn't get a chance to meet you earlier. Are you there? Okay, you're listening and you can't come on screen. That's fine. Where are you reaching us from, Peg?
Good. I'll take this one out. Do we have an outlet somewhere?
From Atlanta in Midtown. Okay. Welcome, welcome. So Jerry, you would advocate for the Achiever Circle, yes? You're muted, by the way, Jerry.
My mouth. I could have swore I had clicked that button before I opened my mouth, but apparently not. Thanks for asking, Rob. I've been to 2 of the Achiever Circle. I've known Mark even before he was president of NSA. He's a former president. And I gotta say, it's practical stuff. You know, sometimes we try to take, well, we need to make this really big and it needs to be very special and all of that. And sometimes we go, well, maybe not. Maybe it's better if we just focus on exactly what it is we're trying to accomplish and what does that other person need. And I found the Achiever Circle to be priceless. I hope you tell them that when you start getting the money for it.
Absolutely.
You know what the trick is? You get somebody to bid and then somebody else wants it. And then you get Mark, you twist Mark's arm so that he'll do 2 of them.
Yeah, he mentioned that earlier, that's what he has done before.
And he's done it. I know we have the New Jersey, right? The New Jersey shows going on too. He's done it with New Jersey and New York and some of the other chapters. So great thing. I hope you say hello for me. And
I will. So what would you let me ask this? I'm actually in the DC chapter. Dave, I think, is reaching us from New Jersey.
Right.
I'm in the DC chapter. So
yes.
What would you say that I could convey to the other members in terms of what you would perceive the monetary value to be of this? Because he's not putting a price on it, so we're just going to try to raise the funds accordingly.
Well, if I'll just be straight, since we're not actually talking to that group right now. We're just between us, right? It's worth $1,000, $1,500.
No, I don't even know if they're new, but you know how when you're ready to hear something, it's new anyway. Yeah. So there we go.
That's helpful. I appreciate that.
Clickable.
You can probably hear the other. Can you hear the other meeting going on in the background here? Through my mic.
Sure.
Yes.
It sure is. Well.
This is about as multitasking as it comes here. I've got 2 systems here.
You're not schizophrenic. I'll swear. Okay. The value of getting away from big groups and getting into a small group, and having the time over the weekend to reflect.
Laboratory. You know, and I'm
That's him right there.
constantly taking my work deeper, coming at it from different angles,
Awesome.
mixing it up.
Well, I'm going to let you guys enjoy the rest of the break. I'm gonna be popping on that. I'm still listening here, but I'll let. In fact, Jerry, if people come back and want to engage, I'm going to put you in charge of helping to just keep people engaged and have conversation.
Okay, I'd love to. I've even got Kate's walk-on music.
What?
Yeah, she has a particular group that she likes, and it's about her future's so bright you have to wear shades.
Timbuktu, yeah.
Timbuktu, yes, yes.
Yeah, I'm a DJ. So
okay.
In addition to that, I've in addition to what I do here, I've been a DJ, a wedding and party DJ for over 3 decades. So I'm a good guy to have on your call list if you get on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and you need somebody to do music trivia.
Absolutely. You're a voice.
But that really
Very
answered
good.
a lot
See
of
you in a
questions
minute.
for me. So
All right, thanks.
Go do your work. Oh, is anybody keeping track of the actual the time? How are we doing? How are we doing on our 10 minutes?
What I will tell you about this group is it's a lot easier for those of us on Zoom to keep track of the time. Those who are in the room are enjoying the interaction and the coffee and the snacks, and 10 minutes always turns into 18 with this group. I'm just telling you. And you'll hear Rich come on as the VOG, encouraging people to sit down, and he will probably do so 3 or 4 times before people actually listen to him. So we might just need to be patient.
yeah, finding paragraphs. Because I have not heard.
Is that you talking, Rob? Because I can't hear you.
No, it's not. No, I muted myself just because I've got the other. They're just kind of coming back from a break on this other one here.
I wonder what I've done wrong. That's me. It's on me. Never mind.
Okay.
Too many buttons. I produce Zoom presentations. So, you have a big layout of what you're trying to accomplish and how you're trying to switch between different things. So more power to you.
So you get it. Do you use a switch?
I do. I don't have it set up this morning, but
what type of equipment do you use for that?
Well, there is I'll send you a link to it. It's
really great.
You can program it and punch a button and it'll give you a 2-shot. And you punch another button, it'll give you. You can go to offline video. I work somebody that does that for Zoom directly. I got a guy at Zoom.
Yeah, please put that in the chat. I'd love to be able to, and let's follow up and make sure we connect on LinkedIn and stuff.
Absolutely.
I knew I was never going to get $3,000 grants in the next 10 years. That's the aim. Yeah. Mr. Mark.
And I'm looking at Dave. Dave, are you there by chance?
Sure, you get to.
He might still be away.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
So tell me the story behind your profile picture there in front of all of the stuffed animals.
I I had a long run history with the Philadelphia Phillies. I started as an intern in 1976. And I was the original performer for the Philly Fanatic, the mascot for the Phillies.
How about
and I did that for 16 years, and I became an entrepreneur, worked and continued to work in the sports marketing space, helping my clients understand how to create a branding and marketing element that interacts and entertains. But my speaking has been about what I've learned about being in charge of your own happiness and well-being. So I've been doing that I've been speaking for 40 years, but I've been treating it like a business for about 7 or 8, and it really has taken over my passion, my focus. And I'm a member of NSA Philly because it really is kind of my second home. I grew up in Delaware and went to college at the University of Delaware, where my dad played football for my father, who is a Hall of Fame football coach. So my whole background has been there's been a backdrop.
Alrighty, everyone, we've got 1 minute, so if you
here 'cause I love
haven't
Jeannie.
grabbed your snack, we would like you to do
Very
so
cool.
now and
Love
make
it.
your way back to your seats. Thank you so much.
And I'm from Boston, so I'm a diehard Red Sox fan.
Yeah, we as Philly fans, we can relate to Red Sox. We were long-suffering franchises, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's good. I love being a part of this, and I was interested in your conversation. In the pandemic, I had a producer friend of mine come in here and spec out a whole system, lighting, camera, sound, everything, and then he would remotely connect and produce my keynotes when I was doing it virtually, and fireside chats, interviews formats that we did. And I just put in the chat it's the ATEMI Mini is the switcher that he uses. And honestly, I don't know how to use it because he remotely connects through the computer he spec'd out and runs everything remotely. It's just phenomenal. And when I got gigs that were online and virtual, the clients would say, "Great job," and they said, "Hey, how did you do that? You were never going to your computer to change slides or to change views." And I said, "I got a guy who comes in and does it. He's my who." So that was it's great that you were talking that. It's amazing the technology and how.
That's cool. So what I would ask for both Dave and Jerry, put in the chat, if you would, the specific model numbers of the devices that you use that you would recommend, so that we have an opportunity to do our own research on that. That'd be very helpful.
I put
Certainly, and Rob,
I put in the camera.
Rob, we use Stream Deck. Now you can see that this is a device that has some buttons on it. You basically program what you would like the device to do. You label the buttons, and then in the middle of the thing, instead of trying to pull down a menu and pick this and do this and all over, you just hit a button. But it's pre-programmed. And the guy that taught me how to do this and use this, his name is Andrew, and I'll make sure I get the information to you. But Andrew now got hired by Zoom. He actually has software that runs this, and he can run the lights in your room. And they've actually put on live plays. Also, it's a full play with people during COVID in all these different locations around the world. And they do the lights, and they do cutouts, and they have the cameras, and they do everything. Now, I call it the tale of two Andrews, because he's Andrew, and my son Andrew is the director of presentations at Harvard University. So you got the Boston connection going on. So he does Hasty Pudding, which I know you're familiar with, and does the Farkas. He runs the Farkas Hall. So they work together during COVID on doing presentations and plays with people all over the world pulled together. And they use devices like this. So like Dave, you're right, Dave, it's an amazing production if you can get it all together.
30 seconds, people. If we could be making our way back to our seats, 30 seconds. Thank you so much.
Okay, folks. Hey, we're going to be taking our seats right now so we can get our program started in the second half. So you can find a great seat, maybe something better than you had before, or maybe sit next to somebody new. We're going to get us seated right now, get our program started. Thank you.
Are we live? Thank you for being back in your seat so soon, and you're going to thank yourself because you are not going to want to miss a minute. All right, I'm going to have to do the thing. Hello. All right, thank you for being back in your seats. You're not going to want to miss a minute of Kate O'Neill. Kate is here. We've already talked about how amazed we are that it all worked out for her to be here. And I'm going to not spend much time introducing her because we know a lot about her and we could go on and on. What you don't know, I want to play on something that her husband, Robbie, said at the end of wearing what's in here. And I'm going to start with that for Kate. She wears what's in here. She talks about it. She is open, approachable, one of the smartest people I've ever met, but she also wears what's in here. And it's not all tech. She's got a bunch of stuff going on, majored in German, speaks a bunch of languages, does all kinds of things. Oh, she is a linguist. I mean, this is Leslie that told you is a linguist, right? Okay, so, but she wears it and it's part of who she is. It's not when she just comes on stage, it's all the time. Now, what I don't typically do is read a bio, but it's so technical, I'm going to read it because I don't want to mess up. Kate O'Neill is widely known as the tech humanist. We're going to find out what that actually means today now that we've heard it so many times in all our promotions. She is founder of KO Insights, which I love. In just a moment, we're going to turn this sideways because, you know, I'm seasoned. 1 second. All right, 1 second. KO Insights is a strategic advisory firm committed to improving human experience at scale, even and especially in data-driven, algorithmically optimized, you understand why I'm not memorizing, and AI-led interactions. Kate regularly keynotes industry events advocating for humanity's role in an increasingly tech-driven future. Her world-leading clients have included, you might have heard of them, Google, Adobe, IBM, Yale University, the city of Amsterdam, oh yeah, and the United Nations, to name a few. Kate's prior roles include creating the first content management role at Netflix, you might have heard of them, as one of the company's first 100 employees, developing Toshiba America's first intranet. I'm sorry, do any of you have that on your resume? And leading cutting-edge experience optimization for magazines.com, and founding MetaMarketer, a first-of-its-kind digital strategy, analytics, and experience optimization agency. Author of 5 books, including her latest, A Future So Bright. Feel free to put on your sunglasses now if you'd like, because I forgot the sunglasses we were going to have as a joke at home. Kate's insights and expertise have been featured in Wired, CMO.com, USA Today, and many, many other outlets. She's been featured and quoted in a wide variety of national and international media, including New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Wired, NPR, Marketplace, NBC News, and BBC World News. In 2023, she was shortlisted for the, I don't think you're shortlisted on anything, but you were shortlisted for the Digital Thinking Award. What an amazing award to win from Thinkers 50, a global ranking of top management thinkers. I'm thrilled to have this top management thinker on the NSA Georgia stage today. Welcome, Kate O'Neill, to the stage.
Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you. Oh, look at this amazing human. Hello, humans. What a treat to be here with you today. Thank you so much for indulging my rescheduling, the silly flu, making us reschedule. And what a treat to get to hear the opening to your meeting and all of the new members that are here and on Zoom. Hello, Zoom friends. We'll bring you in as much as we possibly can. What's really fun is that we get to have the next little while to talk with each other and to explore some of the things that we want to get into around that intersection of tech and humanity. But I want to do it with the mindset, with the full understanding that you all are speakers, and that's why you're here. And I'm not going to do my sort of usual presentation because that wouldn't be of service to you. What I want to do is be of service to you and help you think about the ways that AI and other technology can help you as a speaker, whatever you're trying to do with your business. So in the spirit of that, I thought that I would start with asking you just a simple question, which is, let me get to it. It said slides here. So if we can flip over to slides here, that would be awesome. That's my deck or my screen. If we can pull up my slides. Okay, awesome. I have this queued up, by the way, because at any point, if we want to actually go live and use a ChatGPT-like interaction to do a hot seat and workshop something, we can do that. So we've got that to flip over to if we need to. But I'm waiting to the slides. We'll actually just start with a question, which is just, what are your goals? So when you're thinking about 2024, here we are only 12 days in to this new year. And we are at the point of, hopefully, we're all thinking about what this year is going to be for us, right? What are you going to be doing with your year? And so I'll just throw it open. What are some of the goals that you have for this year? What related to your speaking? You can bring in other non-speaking related goals if you'd like to share with us. We'd love to support you and hold you accountable if you want us to. But just share with us what it is you're looking to do. What are some of those? Feel free to shout them out and I'll just repeat them for the audience. What was that?
Write a book.
Write a book. Create a drip series of videos for after the speeches. Fantastic. Build a membership, like a community. Okay, great, perfect. Increase keynotes, 100%. That's a big number. All right, we're going to support you in that. What do you got here?
Just hone in on branding.
Hone in on branding. Okay. Not out of retirement, out of mediocrity. Love it. I don't see anything mediocre about you. I don't know how you could have ever been in mediocrity. Yes. A new TV show called Just Talking with June Klein. Just Talking with June Klein. I like it. Has a nice roll to it. Just Talking with June Klein. What else do we have? Getting booked more for a month. Okay, so we've got accountability buddy, you and Yannick, helping each other grow the number of bookings that you've got. Yeah. Back end and systems in order so you can be out speaking more. Boy, that sounded like a really good segue into talking about tech. My goodness. Thank you, Cricket. You're a pro. So yeah, that is the question. And when you think about the systems that are supporting you and how they get you into what you need to be doing and how they're going to support these goals, and we'll talk a little bit more about the goals. I want to ask you a few more times so that you're thinking even more in depth about how you're going to explore those goals. But I do have one story that I think will tie in really nicely, which is as Jeannie so generously read my very long bio for you, and it's overwhelming to listen to from the side of the stage. But she mentioned that I was one of the first 100 employees at Netflix and I was the first content manager. And so one of the fun things about that is the story that when I first got there, the first thing I noticed was that movies that were listed with, and this is 1999, movies that were listed in the database had the limitation of only having one genre associated with them. So do we have any movie buffs in this group? Yeah? So you probably already feel this like deep in your gut, like that doesn't feel right. Not just one genre, there's not just one genre for movies. What do you do with something like Ocean's 11? It's like at least 11 genres. Come on. So I saw this limitation and I thought this is going to be a problem. We're not going to be able to grow appropriately as a company. We want the content to be more dimensional than that and people to be able to find it different ways. So I went and told the leaders that what I needed to do was lead a project kind of breaking down the database and rebuilding it so that it had multiple to multiple kind of relationships. And they said, okay, it sounds ugly, but you go ahead and do it. And it was ugly. It took the better part of a year, and it took the better part of everybody who was in the company, the engineers, the database team, the product teams, marketing teams, editorial, my team of content, and so on. And we were able to do it, and we were able to get it to where it is now. But that was, 2000 or so. Since then, this is an actual screenshot of my Netflix account about maybe a year ago. And you can see that there are groupings like political auteur cinema and Oscar-winning 20th century period pieces. That level of nuance is being brought to the experience by AI. So they've been using machine learning for about the last 20 years to crawl through the database and look for patterns and look for relationships between the movies that say, well, these are comedies, but they also have in common that they have a political element, and people who watch these tend to like indie movies, so we can create this, political auteur cinema category. That would never have been possible without the very rudimentary work we did 20 plus years ago to reconstruct the systems so that they had more agility and more flexibility. And maybe you're starting to see the connection that I'm making here. There are limitations in the systems that we build because we're doing it quickly and we're trying to get something that's just going to work for the time being. But oftentimes we need to go back and revisit and think, what is the expansion that we need to do? How do we remove the limitations on these systems? What is your genre project in your business right now that's going to limit you from growing the way you want to grow? How are your systems potentially holding you back from not allowing you to be the fullest version of yourself? And so I'm going to ask you this question again about what are your goals, but I want to ask it a different way. What are your long-range goals? What are the things that you want to accomplish in your speaking or in your business that it might be helpful to think about? Are there limitations in your systems currently that might be holding you back in order to meet those goals? Is anyone starting to think about that? Is there something that's coming to mind? You want to raise? I'll be happy to repeat it back. Yeah, what do you got?
I think the biggest one for me is just
Technician versus strategist thinker.
being the business versus working on.
Yeah, in the business versus on the business. That resonates for folks on Zoom and here in the room, right? Like that's a thing that many of us struggle with, how much of the time and resource we dedicate to the overview of the business and the administration of the business versus being that expert, being the person on the stage, writing the books, doing the thought work that it takes to do the kind of work that we all do. Excellent understanding, yeah. That's true. You can't do everything yourself, right? You can't do everything yourself. So thinking about scale appropriately, thinking about how you're going to create that kind of ability to grow beyond your current limitations. Anybody thinking about limitations in their systems and the technologies that they're using? Yeah, TM, what do you got? Email sequencing. Email automation. Anybody else? You were talking about a drip sequence for video. Anybody else thinking about that email automation and how they're going to be, ushering people into their groups and their membership community you were talking about earlier? Yeah. I feel like by the time I'm already overwhelmed. By the time I figure it out, it's all going to change. Does anybody else feel like that's true? I hear that from my clients all the time. I will share. And you heard some of my clients. They're Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies. They're multinational organizations. That is still something that people are concerned about when they're running companies of that size and scale. They're like, well, what if we go after some automation project and then in 3-6 months, it's a completely different technology or platform, a different way that people are going about this? I'm like, you'll still be closer 3 to 6 months from now to being where you need to be because you did the preliminary work. Remember the genre project, okay? That's what I'm gonna leave you with about that thought, is that there is no world in which you're not better off 3-6 months from now for having tried to move down that road of email automation or whatever it is, because now it's a different email system and you have to port it over, but you did the thinking. You did the thinking that it would take to put the sequencing in place. You started parceling out who are going to be my audiences that I'm going to, target this to. What are the rules, the conditions that people have to meet to go from, they're coming in on the first email versus they clicked on a link over here. Those things are all going to have to be things you think about. Yeah, you want to raise your hand. workshops in person. I'm just making sure people can hear. Yeah, and so you've been doing the workshops in person, you know that it'll be limitless if you can do it digital and do it to a bigger audience, go virtual and connect. That's true for all of us, right? We all have that opportunity. You know, maybe there are things, I was amazed during the pandemic at the number of things that did go virtual, like dentistry virtual. That was shocking to me, but I've actually worked a couple of times with dental related firms since then and learned a lot about what they were doing during that time. It's amazing the things that can go digital and virtual and the ways that we can add value still in ways that we think need a human touch, right? Like a person-to-person, in-person proximity, that maybe they benefit from that if we have the luxury of that, but they don't necessarily need it. Yes, very good observation. What do you got? Yeah.
To take any action, and we do that a lot as
Yeah.
speakers. Well, it's not perfect, so I'm going to wait until the next iteration.
Right.
By that time, like you're.
And just making sure folks on Zoom and in the room here, we can't wait until everything is perfect. We've got to take the first step. We've got to, work into the iterations. Things are always going to be iterations. I think iterative is an incredibly important concept to keep ourselves working through. It's revolution. It's evolution, not revolution, more often than not in the work that we do. Evolution, not revolution, will get us in business at least. I think revolution is often called for in society. But in business, we are often looking at how do we do iterative movement from where we are today to where we need to be. It's so much easier when you're trying to coordinate complex resources, when you're trying to make sure that if you're going to radically change your positioning, for example, then you're going to probably need to do revolution. You're going to need to reinvent a lot of processes and website. But you're not often doing that. You're usually moving from this positioning to just a nudge over here to this really adjacent positioning, right? A quick poll, how many of you have your 2024 planned and sort of have a strategy, have your goals? Good, okay, that's a lot of folks in the Zoom. Yeah, we got some hands up, all right. Yeah, all right, a lot of you are doing that. How many of you have your 2025 mapped out? No hands in Zoom? Oh, wait, there's a hand there. Well, all right, I'm gonna push you though. 2026? 7? Okay. How many of you have given any thought to 2030? Yeah. Oh, a few hands. Yeah, that's fantastic. Anybody given thought to 2050? No, you will not. You will not be dead. You know why you won't be dead? I mean, if you'd rather be dead, I can't fault you. You'll be dead or famous. Yes, you will. Yes, you will be famous, I'm sure. We are looking forward to your show. 2050 is not that far away. It sounds far away, especially for those of us who grew up in the last quarter of the 20th century. We're like, 2050? But yeah, 2030 is really not far away, right? 6 years. Can you think 6 years ago, right? Which now is 2018, which is so weird. Like 2018 was 6 years ago? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, that's right. COVID definitely changed a lot of the perception of time that we all have. But think back 6 years, and what I tell my clients in terms of thinking about foresight and planning for the future is, if you can think back a number of years, you can generally think ahead that same number of years, but with fogginess. Like, you're not going to have a clear picture, but you should at least have the kind of vague sense of what that span of time feels like. It's not an alien idea, 6 years, right? So you can think about that span of 6 years, and then you can just cast it forward and then start thinking about, all right, well, if things change that much for me in my profession and the work that I'm doing and the books that I wrote or didn't write or the keynotes I delivered, then they could probably change this much. And I think that's a really important thing. But if you're not already in the process of planning your 2030 strategy, I don't want you waiting till 2029 to do it, because I think it's really important that we have a long-range vision so that we can begin to clear away the limitations like the genre restriction, right? So we can begin to think about what's holding us back from booking 100% more keynotes than we already were, or building a community, or doing the drip sequence, right? What I call this is a brighter future strategy. And I do that because I think that what we need to do is think about the ways in which the future is full of bright and dark, right? It's full of things that could go wrong and will go wrong, and we absolutely have to be ready for those. But it's also full of things that could go right, and we need to be prepared for those things too. So in order to do that, I want to make sure that we dissect a little bit how we talk about the future. I think this is really important, and I promise that I will not be doing very much of my normal keynote content, but this is more like, this is my mission to get people thinking differently about the future. So I'm sharing with you my personal mission that I really, really want the world to think differently about, because what people think about when they think about the future is often the change factors. They're often thinking about the things that are so big and scary, like climate crisis, like economic instability, like social issues, geopolitical upheaval, the many, many things we read in headlines that make uncertainty feel like the norm. And it is kind of the norm. And technology, of course, AI, automation, the Internet of Things, like all of the many, many kinds of tech headlines that we read every day, those are making it really, really hard for us to understand some sense of normal or certainty. But that thing is, I hear this from my clients every day, the future is looking uncertain. The future is looking uncertain, Kate. And it's true. I think we could probably all resonate with that, right? I would also counter that it's not that uncertain. We have models, we have ways of looking at the future that give us some ability to understand how we get ready for it, how we prepare for it. So I want to unpack that. I want to unpack what it is we mean when we talk about the future. Because the future, normally, the way we've been told and taught to think about it in science fiction, sort of culture and literature in our society, is one of two ways. And that's not what it is. It's not dystopia versus utopia, right? Those are the only two ways we're ever told to think about it in culture, right? Dystopia versus utopia. And that means that we're given this very binary, fractured way of understanding reality. And none of us believe utopia is on the table. Correct? No one really thinks everything's going to go so right and so perfectly that we're going to be living in an all too perfect society, right? That means that everything we read about and hear about and understand about what's coming down the pike, we think about in terms of dystopia. We think about as, great, how bad is this going to be? Right? Like everything you read about gene editing and CRISPR, you're like, great, how bad is that going to be? Like going to Mars, you kidding me? Oh, great. Like instead of thinking about the best outcomes, we're thinking about the worst outcomes. And don't get me wrong, we need to be clear on those worst outcomes, the harms, the risks, the things that could go badly, and we need to hold accountable the entities that need to be held accountable so that those things don't happen. But wouldn't it be cool if we were also thinking about all the ways that those things could go right and leaning into making them go right and figuring out how they could go right? That's what we often don't do. We don't give ourselves the benefit of spending as much time or energy and resources on planning how to make things go right. And that's what I want differently for you all, is to think about how to do away with this framework entirely. Dystopia versus utopia is not a framework that's helping us. So instead, I want to give you what I think the future is. And it's pretty simple, actually. I think it's a pretty useful way and easy way to think about the framework. And so I went with a blank white screen, just clear your head, clear your mind. And what it is simple. Future is just the time in front of us. We're all agreed on that so far, right? And is at least partly knowable or predictable because it is at least partly shaped or determined by the actions and decisions that we have already taken, and more importantly, those we're about to take today. How does that feel? You want to hear it again? Yeah. The future is just the time in front of us, and it is at least partly knowable and partly predictable because it is at least partly shaped or determined by the actions and decisions that we've already taken and those we're about to take today and make today. Does that make sense? Does it resonate? Does it feel more empowered? Less like you're a helpless bystander of this passing of time and don't have any agency or any way to control the narrative? That's what I would like it to feel like. I especially want it to feel like this for leaders that I speak with, because leaders absolutely do have the power to make big changes in the sweep of this history that we're all living in. And the leaders that I talk to often have incredible consequences to the decisions that they make. They feel the weight of that responsibility for what it's worth, but they also have incredible responsibility that they are entrusted with, that we entrust them with, or that they've just found their way into, whether we've entrusted them with that or not. But you, in your world, in your work, in your business, in your lives, also have the capability. And I know we don't control everything. Certainly things happen that are beyond our control. But there is certainly more power than we usually account for in our own day-to-day decision making. Also, I think it's incredibly important to think about futures, not future. I think it's incredibly important to recognize that the way we think about the future is more useful to us if we think about it as multiple possible outcomes, right? Multiple ways that it could go, and we're not really tied up in knots, worried about it only being one outcome. That's why we have to have a range of possible ways to pivot. We got to be agile. We got to have a sense of what it is that matters to us that we're building into, and be ready to let go some of the other things that we may not see come to fruition. There's a lot of flexibility and health in that way of thinking. Does that resonate? Cool. So I'm going to go back to this what are your goals question, but ask it a different way. What are the resources that you feel like you may need, that you have currently maybe, or that you may need to grow, to add, to bring more capacity and scale, and maybe flexibility to what you're thinking about for 2024, 2025, 2030, 2050. Anyone getting a sense of that? I know we actually did, we had a few of those answers already start to bubble up about systems, right? Anything else coming to mind for folks? I got anything in the Zoom chat already? Anybody want to pipe up with anything? Or from the previous discussion? Rob, or yeah? Or we're just getting thumbs up. We're good. Okay, we'll come back to you. We'll come back to you. If you have answers to this, the capacity and scale resources, I'll circle back. Anybody in the room? What do you got? Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. Bruce, we want to hear your voice.
The words. There we go. I think what I hear you saying is, I had that thought, hang on a second. It's as much of a resource of being willing to not have to have, I'll say it this way, the box top of the jigsaw puzzle, but still be willing to do it.
I love that.
Like we don't be willing to, the resource we need is the ability to not have it all under our control or think we do.
Yeah. I think there's a certain value to the jigsaw puzzle box, right? In the sense that it's really helpful. The clearer the picture we have is of where we want to go, the more constructive I think the steps are that we take to get us there.
But can that not stifle us if we're so hung up on having to, that future part,
Yeah.
being okay with it being
Yeah.
multiples?
It's that whole thing. It comes back to this whole, what happens if I start moving in the direction of a technology or of a decision, and then 3 to 6 months from now, something happens, some externality, and the technologies have changed, or the market has changed, or COVID has happened, or whatever, or the supply chain is all gummed up because of the Suez Canal, or whatever it might be, right? Those are very real externalities that play into these things. But I think the clearer we have as an understanding of what it is we're actually trying to do, the more we're able to push through those things. We've got our resources around us. We've got that scale and the capacity built around us. And we've got a pretty flexible and fundamental understanding of what it is we're trying to do. But that's where that futures, not future, comes into play, and having a sense that the pieces in that jigsaw puzzle box, they come together to form that picture, but they could also come together to form a different picture if we used a different set of the pieces and maybe some other pieces over here that we didn't even know we had. But the moment we start trying to put that picture together, we're going to get a clearer sense of what is additional to us, what resources are available beyond that. Does that help? Okay. Any other thoughts yet from our brilliant, not mediocre person here?
2 comments. I do not know what the future brings, but I know what I bring to the future.
Oh, I love that. That's nice. I love
That's
that.
in essence of what you were just alluding to.
I think that's brilliant. What a great synopsis.
And the second comment is a deeper dive and involvement in NSA Georgia.
Way to bring it around. Way to bring it around. Jeannie loves that. Jeannie's really glad she brought you a microphone.
No
We have a
extra
couple
charge.
questions on Zoom.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He'll sing.
Let's hear from Zoom.
We have 2 questions, one from Judy and then one from Jerry.
Actually, just a comment, and I think how I'm processing this is that you're challenging us to, instead of like shooting ourselves in the foot about all the things that are going to go wrong in the future, number one, to think of, well, there's more than one future. We can think futures.
Well said.
But also to be using our imaginations and our ideas, our innovation, to also tap into what can go right. Otherwise, we might be like inadvertently sabotaging ourselves or shooting ourselves in the foot about creating the goodness or the good things that could happen as a result.
Yes, that wonderful value add to that clarification. Thank you. I think that probably helps everyone in the room and on the call. That was a really good constructive add.
And I think Jerry had a question as well.
What do you got, Jerry?
Thank you, Kate. I read Master of Change this year, and the author, Brad, said that it starts with order, it moves to disorder, and it ends with reorder. And we're not going to go back to normal. We're going to have to reorder the future. And if we can accept that it's not going to be the same, that's going to work for us. And one more comment. Kate, thanks so much for your way to include the Zoom people in the conversation. You repeated the questions until we got a microphone on the audience. That takes a very savvy presenter. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Jerry. Appreciate that. No, I think your quote from Brad, I'd have to look up Masters of Change or Mastering Change, whatever the title was.
Master of Change.
Master of Change. That is a really interesting point about going from order to disorder and then reorder. I feel like that is not so much the way of natural systems. Like we know that in physics, entropy does not decrease, right? Like we usually see things go from order to disorder in natural systems, and that's just life. That's just how physics and the natural world progress. But I think what we try to learn from self-generative systems like mycelium or like oak trees that have their roots connected beneath the surface of the ground, we try to learn how to be connective with one another and how to have regenerative capabilities. And I think that's where maybe we can take the order to disorder and bring reorder into it, is by thinking about how do we, and going right back to your plugging of NSA Georgia, how do we connect with one another to be resources to one another to be stronger, to be able to be regenerative, to bring additional resources to one another, to help lift up when we're dealing with chaos and when we're dealing with disorder, to get through that and into the reorder. That's, I think, the real opportunity. Why humans have the capability to do what we do is because we can learn from observing the systems around us and go, that's a pattern. And if we borrow that pattern and bring it into the work that we're doing, there's a book that I've been reading called Emergent Strategy that I highly recommend. Beautiful book. Emergent Strategy. I cannot remember the author's name, but she's writing from a social justice perspective, but she does a lot of facilitation in social justice spaces. And she talks a lot about regenerative models and biomimicry and looking at nature and trying to understand, but it's not just about, gee, we follow the patterns of nature and we're doomed to follow the patterns of nature. It's we're smart enough to recognize the patterns of nature and figure out what that teaches us and how we could actually use that to our advantage and be more highly evolved beings. How could we be better off for the patterns that we observe in nature? So I really appreciate that observation about the order to disorder and reorder, because I think bringing that to it adds that level of how can we connect with one another and be support to one another. I'm going to move into this. So one of the reasons why I talk about capacity and scale, though, is because emerging and evolving technology like AI does add capacity and scale. And it does so in a way that is both exciting and an additional responsibility for our planning. It's exciting because we've never seen this kind of capacity and scale before. Anytime people talk about what AI has the potential to do and they compare it to past technology changes, it's not even remotely a fair comparison. There's so much additional scale and capacity that comes with what we now are going to have the potential to do and already do have the potential to do. I mean, the protein folding process. I don't know how many of you have been paying attention to this, but with using AI, researchers have been able to determine different kinds of protein folding patterns that we never would have done. We would have taken us years and years and years of modeling and research to get to. The level of insight into disease recognition and curing that could come in the years to come from what has been able to be uncovered in the last couple of years alone, since the Human Genome Project, which was completed in the early 2000s, and then the Human Microbiome Project, which was completed in the early 2010s, and now the protein folding. What I'm telling you is that these last 20 years have unearthed a ton of new insight about our very own bodies and about life itself that we're on the cusp of seeing the benefit of. Things are going to be very different, and they have the opportunity to be different in an extremely exciting way. And what we need to know is that all of us in the decisions that we make day to day have consequences that are going to be bringing about consequences, and those might be good and those might be bad. And we have to think about sometimes what are unintended consequences to the decisions that we make. This is definitely true for leaders in large companies who are rolling out large-scale automated systems, and they need to be thinking about things like jobs that they may be replacing or displacing. In so doing, we may need to think about ways that we're not bringing human value to the customer call support kind of functions or things like that. What are we missing in doing that? What do unintended consequences look like? What am I talking about? I'm talking about the polarization that we all know to be existent. Whatever side of politics you are on, you know that there's been an increase in polarization, and that's been largely due to social media polarizing public discourse. I'm not going to read through every one of these. You can see it on the slide, but you get the gist, right? Like a lot of what technology has done, unfortunately, has been some unintended consequences, as well as connecting us with one another and providing these opportunities for us all to be, in the room together and, giving these wonderful advantages like the protein folding I was talking about. The incredible opportunities that it brings also come with these devastating consequences. And we need to have the fullness, the appreciation of the fullness of that, even in the decision-making that we are doing day to day. So I think it helps us to be able to be true and real about the decisions we're making. Because here's the thing, I used to use this image, I'd say maybe I was probably using it back in 2008 at its earliest. So you would have image recognition algorithms would regularly trip over these images. So it could not tell the difference. An image recognition algorithm could not tell the difference between pictures of blueberry muffins and pictures of Chihuahua puppies. You look at that and you go like, ha ha, I can tell the difference, right? And that's fine, we all can, and it's wonderful. And the reason why we can is because we have sense memory and the ability to connect the way we experience the world with the senses we perceive and how we know that a fluffy puppy feels when we pet it and how a moist muffin feels when we bite into it, and hopefully not what a puppy feels like when we bite into it. That's not what we're trying to do. But here's the thing, that has changed. I no longer use this image in the same way because that is not true anymore. Image recognition algorithms no longer stumble over this image problem. They're able to do things like this. DALL-E, generative AI tool, and this has actually been a couple months ago that I generated this one, so it probably looks better than this now, but my prompt was several Chihuahua puppies holding several blueberry muffins, and not a problem, right? The AI today is doing things in a far more sophisticated way than it was for years. It's made leaps and bounds. We all know this. We see it in the headlines every day. You're all probably using a ChatGPT type of interaction. You know, but here's the thing. What I really want to make clear is that when we think about how we're bringing technology into our work and the decisions we're doing and the scale we want to bring, the resources, the limitations we want to lift, digital transformation, that kind of digital transformation is not about technology. You see what I mean? It is not. It is because it is about humans. It's about what it is you're trying to accomplish at scale. It's about purpose at scale. And then trying to remove the limitations of whatever the systems, sometimes the systems are human limitations, right? It might be our limitations as humans. We can only answer so many phone calls or respond to so many emails. Could we set up email sequencing and automation that would actually help us deal with more customers or more potential people who are interested? Yeah, I think we know we could. But we have to start with, what is it we're trying to do? What is the message we're trying to get out there? What kind of an interaction are we trying to have with people that we want to bring scale to? I know you know this, but I just want to make sure you're remembering that AI is more than ChatGPT, right? So we know that AI is the large language models like ChatGPT and other chatbots, but it is also things like recommenders. Back when Amazon first started, when Netflix first started, and Spotify, this was some of the first encounters that many of us had with AI, and we didn't necessarily know we were having it with AI, was the recommendation engines that were saying, you liked this, you might also like this, right? But spam filters are some of the earliest interactions that many of us had with AI. Like, oh, that looks like spam. It meets some parameters that look like what I've already identified spam to be. And I think once we understand that, once we start getting a bigger picture of what AI is, we maybe start to get a sense of, it could do different things. It could help us in different ways. So let's come back to you and think about, what are the processes that you have in place that you may need to change? What are the things that we need to go back and think about? I like to talk about future readiness. There's this term that I often encounter. People live to say, be future-proof. Well, you can't be future-proof. The future is coming, whether you like it or not. You cannot be future-proof, but you can be more or less future-ready, right? So I want you to be more future-ready. And I'm wondering what it is that you think, as you're thinking about all of what we've talked about and digested, what processes do you anticipate might need to change or be augmented by tech in order to help you be more future ready? I know for me, everything that you've talked about is really true for me. I certainly need to do more work on my own email sequencing. I need to do more work on video sequencing. I need all of the stuff. Once you guys figure it out, please help me. But this is a matter of time and priorities, right? You know, we all have only so much time and priority that we can dedicate to it. So with what you're trying to do, let's just stay focused on 2024, right? with what you know your goals for 2024 to be. Because I want you walking out of here feeling like, man, that was a really good use of my time today. I'm so glad. And I feel so much more ready to jump into 2024 and build some systems and build some processes that are actually going to remove some of the limitations that I would have otherwise been dealing with. Anybody starting to have that feeling? You got your hand almost like you're in limbo with your hand, it looks like. Anybody? Yeah, I don't want to call on you if you're not ready. If it's not baked yet, all right, it's cool. Yeah, what do you got? Oh, yeah, thank you. And you got a question on Zoom? I'll come back to you. I just want to make sure I see you. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
I am a big believer in processes, and I think you do have to have a way you're going to do everything you do. And then I think on top of that, you have to have a process to change your processes.
Yeah.
That you're constantly thinking about at some point in time, measuring what you've done, and then innovate and change your processes. So you have to have a process for processes.
Yeah, that's good. A process for processes. So I think what it sounds like you're alluding to as well is building into your process, maybe for this year, maybe this is a priority for many of us, is to build in a certain degree of reflectiveness. And I try to do that. I usually build a plan for the year. And then I make sure that, it's somehow coming to the end of a year, I've allowed myself most of a week to try to build like what is a strategy for the year. But then I also build in time on my calendar. At that time, I schedule it ahead where each quarter I'm going to give myself a long weekend to review it. And then each month I also have like a day that's my dedicated day to review how are we on that month. And every day I look at those goals and try to make sure I'm in alignment, or if I'm not in alignment, I'm adjusting. I'm making sure that things are where I said they would be, or if they're not, it's for a good reason, and I'm going to make sure that I've adjusted in a sort of balanced budget sort of way how I'm accounting for that in what my current goals are. Maybe something changed that's a really good thing, like I got a new TV show opportunity, but that throws out the window a lot of what I might have been planning to do with growing my keynote business by 100%. You can't do both, probably. Maybe you could. Maybe you should collaborate and make it happen. I don't know. But yes, I think that's an incredible observation. Yeah, what do you got? And then I'll come to Zoom. Oh, sorry. Yes, okay, thank you. Microphone, thank you. Blue microphone, thank you.
All right. One of the things I realized with technology you can do is you can get to market quicker. You can define your process and get it out there and try it to figure out if this is working. So the ability to change your futures, like you were saying earlier, the pivot is something that I think is, for me, I realize that there is some value and importance in doing that, because I think a lot of times we may hesitate because we're not sure if it's going to work. And so we don't follow through with the process.
Yeah.
So I think that if we can find that way to at least get the process out there and exercise it a couple of times.
Yeah, fail faster.
But you'll learn what works as well and be able to implement that more effectively.
Yeah, I love that's brilliant and a totally true thing. But the fail faster thing also reminded me that Rihanna has a tattoo, maybe many of you know. It says, always a lesson, never a failure, right? So I think that's an incredibly important way to think about that too. And it ties back to your observation, right? If you're ready to pivot and change and adapt, then there's no failures. Just failing faster is a way of saying, I just learned something. Cool. Moving on, like incorporating that and getting ready to move on to my next thing and how I'm going to interpret that. What do we have on Zoom here?
We had two comments here. Dave first and then Jerry. Dave, we'll let you go.
Thank you. Hey, thanks,
Hey, Dave.
Kate. Appreciate it. Stimulating conversations. I think for me, my creative process is so important, not just to speaking, but to some of my training. And AI obviously has become this behemoth of potential for creativity, but I'm trying to look at it as an inspiration as opposed to it, doing the creatives for me. So I'm balancing that just with ChatGPT and advanced, subscription for that, finding how amazing it is, specifically for speaking and coming up with an analogy when I'm sitting trying to figure out an analogy, looking for inspiration for analogy, and then getting some of that. So I'm trying to use it as the angel on my shoulder instead of the devil. So I think from a creative format, and in this case, a process, AI can really, if it's done well, could really be a great inspiration for creativity for everybody, for the world moving forward, and maybe solving some pretty important problems rather than being this devil that we are hearing a lot about.
Yeah, so much that. Just to piggyback on that, one of my involvements with the United Nations that was mentioned in my intro is that in 2019, I got to facilitate a panel at the COP25 Climate Change Summit in Madrid on how AI can help us fight climate change. And it was a panel of world-leading experts on this topic. So mind-blowingly cool opportunity. And that was true in 2019, that we were already having that conversation. It's even more true in 2024 and beyond, that there are all kinds of ways that AI can add capacity and scale to solving humanity level problems. So yeah, I love the angel and devil on your shoulder idea. I think a lot of people chuckled when they heard that. It resonates a lot. And I'm actually have a few slides a little further in, so I'm going to accelerate a little bit once we get past a couple of questions and make sure we get to some of the more kind of practical takeaway uses of AI, and make sure we're talking about the angel use, not the devil use. But what's the other comment we had here, a question?
Thank you, Kate. 23andMe, the genetics and ancestry company, had a breach in October, and they finally figured out who to blame. They blamed their customers. That didn't go over very well. But it does bring up something important: personal responsibility.
Yeah.
Cybersecurity is now getting AI to work with the different software platforms, but it's really going to come down. It's such a big problem that it needs everybody.
Yeah.
And that includes the companies who should build software that protects privacy. And it also comes with personal responsibility, where people use stronger passwords. They have everything that they need, and they actually use it instead of putting yellow stickies around the edge of their monitor.
Yeah, no, that's true. And a great example, I think the 23andMe thing and the way you framed it is hilarious. I think the applicable thing specifically for many of us is that we are in a position where, in the interest of scale, many times we're confronted with opportunities to, say, buy a list or do something that is probably doesn't chime with a responsible use of data, or how we would actually want people to be conducting business with us. And I think the opportunity is for us, and the responsibility for us is to say, I'm not going to do things that are a little bit shady just because they might step me down the road a little faster, right? So I don't want to be in that kind of business where I have to be buying lists and trying to manipulate data and trying to scrape Google or do these manipulative LinkedIn messages or whatever to try to sell people like, oh, I liked your last post. You didn't like my last post. You didn't see my last post. That's just what your message says. I think we need to remember a degree of actual humanity, and remember that relationships are built in these kind of interactions. Did you're relinquishing your comment there? Okay, that's cool. But you have something. Did you want to bring the mic back for a sec? Yeah, it's okay. We'll move on. It's cool. We're doing great. Black mic, I think. Okay.
Oh.
There we go.
I just wanted to quickly give an example of something that I think touches on a number of things you were talking about today, and that is this week I had a song picked to be licensed as the theme for a podcast.
Yay! All right.
And I thought about doing, I searched for a license agreement. I thought about contacting a lawyer. So I went to ChatGPT and said, could you write me a song license for using a song for the theme of a podcast?
Yeah.
And it said, I'm not a lawyer, but, and then gave me almost the perfect license agreement and saved me money and an immense amount of time.
Yeah.
So just one of the ways that I feel like I know what to do in the future.
Yeah.
And how this is gonna change my process.
That's a brilliant example of a very practical, useful. Congratulations, by the way. Yeah. Let's celebrate the wins. Absolutely. Very practical, useful way to use ChatGPT or another large language model like that. I will say that my lawyer would probably tell me to say, the benefit of that is that you could probably take that contract draft, run it by a lawyer, and pay a fraction of what you would otherwise pay to have it drafted and finished. And you'll pay a fraction and you'll be confident that it actually contains bona fide legal structures and isn't just a bunch of, likely next words. I'm going to have a slide here in a moment that talks a little bit more about how large language models work, and it is all based on what is the likely next word. So I would be careful still, but it's awesome, and I would just run it by a lawyer just to say, I know this is going to take you a lot less time, so I'll hopefully it'll only be like an hour billable as opposed to 5 hours billable or whatever. I'm not going there. I'm going here. Let me accelerate a little bit. What I want to do is make sure that you are able to get what we've been working through is a canvas that I have, and it's going to be in a download that I make available to you. You can take a picture of this canvas, but you're going to get a much better resolution version of it in the PDF you download. But what we've been working through is kind of a version of these questions. This is what I work with a lot of my clients through, is just thinking about how do you articulate your purpose statement, which shouldn't be this mishmash of quasi language that we usually use for vision statements or mission statements. This is a very succinct 3 to 5 word articulation of what it is you do in the world and what you're trying to do at scale. So how you align with the interests of the people inside and outside your organization, and how you're going to do that at scale. For my favorite example, just to make it really crisp and clear for you, is if you think about Disney theme parks, theirs would be create magical experiences. That's it. And with those 3 words, you can make a lot of decisions. You could prioritize a lot of resources. You could prioritize multi-million-dollar budgets based on create magical experiences, right? So if you can get your understanding of what you do down to those 3 words or 3 to 5 words, you'll be in a much more nimble place to deal with the multiple futures, to deal with the emerging, puzzle box top, all of the stuff we've been talking about. That toolkit is at the end. I'll give you the QR code. I'll make sure we get to that. I'm going to skim through a little bit of this because we've talked a lot about some of that. What I do want to talk a little bit about this, though. I think this is an important part of getting into the AI, the usefulness of AI. We often think about thinking in a way that isn't consistent with how we actually think. We think we learn in a way that we don't actually learn, for the most part. Those of you who are, sort of PhDs in education or something like that, you know better than I. But I've spent a lot of time thinking about thinking and thinking about learning over the years, and I think it's really important that we understand a little bit of it so that we understand how technology like AI can best complement us, right? And so that when we as leaders who are making decisions in our businesses and in the business ecosystem that we operate can make really good decisions in light of what we know. So this is where AI and automation and other tech can help you in this process. So what I would say at a highest level is what we're trying to do is to use our human instincts and combine that with the efficiency that machines afford us so that we can make better decisions and do more future-ready work. Does that sound like the dream? I mean, to me it is. Does that resonate? Yeah. To do that, we got to really know what it is we mean when we talk about our instincts and our insights. So the company, as you know, is called KO Insights. It's called that for a reason. And it is because I think that one of the most powerful tools that we have is our ability to make sense, do sense making, do synopsizing, sort of synthesize what we're understanding and find some common core truth. And then use that truth like a laser to cut through everything that comes after it. So that's the gist. Usually this is how we think that learning happens, is we ask questions, who knows, and then we learn. And that's not at all true. That's not what's happening. What's happening is that we ask questions, and they are hopefully increasingly meaningful. We get crisper and clearer on what it is we're trying to ask. We gather partial answers form them into insights over time. We may realize what we're doing when we're doing it. We may not realize what we're doing when we're doing it. But these insights form, and then what they do is they shape the decisions that we make in timely ways, so that we can say, this is how we need to go now. And whether we're conscious of it or not, we're also putting aside information that guides our actions for later. And I call that a bankable foresight. So you get the opportunity to say, look, I'm gathering all this information. I'm deciding that this is an insight. The more conscious of it we can be, the better. This is an insight, and I'm making a decision now because what I know about this to be true is X, Y, or Z, or what I believe might be true, and then you can always adjust later. And what I think might be true in the future, one of these multiple futures we're planning for, is Z over here. And so I'm going to build my work in such a trajectory that I get to Z eventually, but I don't have to worry about Z today. I'm not solving for Z today. I'm solving for X or C or G or whatever today, right? And I just know that Z is going to be a point in my trajectory. I don't need it to be my solution. This is what that model looks like, and the way I've mapped it out. It's complex and maybe needlessly complex. Sorry, I love complexity. I try to work in the model of going from complexity and adding to simplicity for my clients, helping my clients come to a place of clarity. I think simplicity isn't necessarily the key to clarity. Complexity can be a key to clarity if you've got the right tools to know what you're looking at. Yeah, what do you? Yes. It is. It is. It's absolutely going to be part of your goodies, and it's part of your goodies that are broken out into questions that help you work through them. So what we're actually looking at is you're asking a framing question, and then you're gathering partial answers. This is what we talked about, right? How many of you have ever had the experience of asking a team that works for you a question and then getting, 6 different answers? Right? Everybody has. We've all had that experience, and you know why? It's because they're not wrong. They're just only seeing like their side of the elephant, right? And it's your job as a leader to then take those sides of the elephant and go, I think what we're looking at here is an elephant, right? And we know things about elephants. We know what they're going to do, how they're going to move, and so we can make decisions based on what we know about elephants. But we might not be looking at them. We might be looking at a rhinoceros. We might, we've got to be savvy enough to know what we don't know, but that's the partial answer gathering. We come to what we call a timeless insight. That's the elephant, or maybe the rhinoceros. And based on that insight, which I point out that it's timeless because we're going to use it to make a timely decision. Usually the decisions we need to make are, pretty immediate and in front of us. Like you're being asked for your lunch order. I don't know, I got to gather partial answers and decide on an insight. And I guess I'll have the ham and cheese. It's not that complicated. But it is important that we are, in many cases, arriving at an informed decision. And this is the process, conscious or not, that we're going through in order to do that. The more conscious we are of it, the higher quality our decisions are going to be. So we go from this timeless insight, which can inform decisions again and again and again, down to this timely decision. But we do that through looking also at the context that we're in, the externalities, the real world that's happening around us. Ham and cheese, oh, maybe not ham and cheese because there was a E. coli outbreak in ham, right? Like that's the kind of externalities we're looking at. And then trends. What are the trends that are guiding the world that we might want to make a different decision because 3 to 6 months from now, that technology is not going to be the dominant technology. Maybe we move toward the dominant technology. Maybe we don't. Maybe we know we need to get there gradually through iterative steps. But then we have the magic bankable foresights. Bankable foresights are where we say, here's my favorite Netflix story is Reed Hastings, the CEO at the time that I was there and for many years, was leading the company in the earliest days and when we were a DVD rental company, right? And we were a DVD rental company with an 800-pound gorilla in the marketplace, as some of you may know the name of, Blockbuster, right? And they had when I joined the company, they had just figured out the subscription model. So people were like setting up their queue and getting delivered another DVD. Streaming was not even on the radar of what we were thinking about, except that it kind of was, because Reed and the executive team decided to invest money, research and development money, into what we were then calling set-top boxes, which was the predecessor to streaming as we know it. And they were this upstart in Silicon Valley that was not at all assured to come out of this battle with this 800-pound gorilla intact, right? Like we weren't sure we were going to be the leader. But he thought, if we do win, you know, maybe we need to figure out what the new sort of paradigm is going to be and be ready for the pivot to that. So we got to put all of our eggs in the basket of solving this, you know, marketplace problem and get a bunch of customers. And we also got to make sure we're ready for what's coming next. And so sure enough, you know, that's 1999, 2000 timeframe that's happening. Roku didn't come along as a standalone set-top box, you know, player until 2006. And Netflix didn't have a dedicated streaming plan until 2007. So you think about that, like, when is the last time you made a decision that wouldn't play out in full for the better part of a decade ahead, 6, 7, 8 years ahead, while you were in all-out bloody battle with your biggest marketplace competitor? I mean, I have never had that vision, but I've been witness close up to that vision. And what it's taught me is definitely that when you're able to say, I need to make a timely decision, and I also need to be growing toward what I think the future is, by all means, calibrate your growth toward that future outcome. Does that make sense? So I think this is a more future-ready way to think as we get ready to incorporate more AI and emerging technology into our work. And I'll show you why, because what I also want to make sure that as we're using more AI, that we're using the best tools for the job. I have queued up over here Poe on my browser. I don't know that we're going to do this right this second. We will if we have enough time, but I don't know how many of you know Poe.com, but I would advise going ahead and hitting that URL, saving that URL, because instead of ChatGPT, what it does is gives you access to a lot of different models, and you can play around with how different models work for different kinds of questions. I showed this to some colleagues of mine, Rachel Sheeran and Rachel D'Alto. We were doing a project together, and Rachel D'Alto is so hilarious. She got into Claude. Claude is Anthropic's large language model, and she started using it for generating some of her draft content, like you were talking about the creative work that you do there on Zoom, and she was like, Claude, I really like Claude. Claude is my boyfriend. So she got really into Claude. You might find one of these other models really works for you based on the kinds of things you want to do with it. It might work better than ChatGPT. And I think it's really important that you kind of get the feel for what different models are bringing to the equation. So that's a tool that I think is really handy. I also built my own GPT that you're welcome to try out. You can hit this with your phone to hit the QR code if you like, or you can go to techhumanistfuture.com. This is just a really rudimentary, like, first run at plugging a bunch of my books and articles into a bot, basically, into the training data of a large language model, or it's actually kind of, I guess, a small language model in a sense, but to give it the opportunity to say, you know, like, if I'm a corporate leader, you know, how do I build a strategic model that is in keeping with the tech humanist mindset? And, you know, maybe asking specific questions that they might otherwise ask me. They're not going to get my vibrant personality, but they can get, you know, the beginnings of an answer that kind of like your contract, right? It's going to get them a little ways down the road. Maybe they go like, okay, I looked at the Brighter Future bot. Kate, I'd really love for you to weigh in on this. And it's a lot easier for us to have that conversation because now we've got some shared vocabulary and some framework that we're all starting to agree on. You might be able to use it in your work and start setting up your 2024 strategy around how we're talking about these Brighter Future models. So skipping through that, what I'm showing you with this learning process can be interrupted in a couple different ways to use AI. And so I want to just make clear what we're doing in this part of the process, the questions to partial answers to insights. That is learning as knowledge gathering, right? And then the latter part of that process, that's from insight to context answers and foresights, the decision part, is learning as contextual decision making. So you're doing some in-the-moment decision-making and learning about your environment based on that. It kind of goes, Tyron, to your point about being able to make iterative choices, like run something out, see whether it works. That's this part of the process, right? That's trying something out and seeing how it goes. But then there's also this kind of like research, knowledge gathering part of the process. So I think you can pretty clearly see based on that how you might throw some technology into the mix, right? It starts to become a little more clear. And we're really good at gathering up what we might think of as useless knowledge, but finding value in it. So what we can start doing is saying, like, let's just be curators of our own repository of what we think is valuable, and then start using the tools to help us work through that process of when are we gathering knowledge and when are we making decisions, and how can we pull those things in at the right time. I'll give you an example of something that I did to try to test this is I read a lot. I read a lot of books at once. This is kind of one of my hobbies is on my Kindle, I'll have like 100+ books in process at any given time, and I'll be like read a couple of paragraphs and then go, all right, I'm bored with that. Let me flip over and read a couple of paragraphs of something else. But it makes for some really funny juxtapositions. I would be reading, last year I was reading a book on cats and their history with humans, like how cats co-evolved with us, as well as a book on architecture and modern art. And when I flipped back and forth between them at one point, I noticed this juxtaposition of a moment when they're talking about how we impose emotional interpretations onto cat faces. And how like there's this study that was really interesting to read about how people would attribute traits like courage and anxiety to cat faces that they were looking at. And that's just us, right? Projecting ourselves onto these cat faces. And at the same time, then I was reading about how Alain de Botton was observing that our relationship with modern art and architecture is about projecting ourselves and recognizing ourselves. Like we might look at a Rothko and say like, oh, there's a landscape in that. It's like, it's 3 color blocks, right? But we see landscape. We're adding meaning to the scene. So that's a very interesting thing. I wrote an essay about it. I sent it to my email list. And I added my own sort of poetic take on it. But I also threw it into a chat GPT type of interaction. I think it was Claude. And, oh no, yeah, it was Claude. It says almost the same thing. It's maybe like, there's less of a sort of florid poetic style, like I have my own writing style, but Claude arrived at the same meta insight that I did, which is that we impose ourselves on our surroundings, we're adding meaning to our environment, that it's a human instinct to kind of look for ourselves in the things around us, that's something, and I'm tying it back into sort of this tech humanist view of making sure that we're using technology in this way that's kind of this rarefied experience. But Claude doesn't kind of get there, but it's an awfully good first pass. It's like your contract, right? It's a very good first pass. If I hadn't been able to put my finger on that insight, this would have done it. So I'm sharing this as, you're gathering stuff all the time, and it's related to your work somehow. You know that it catches your fancy, it's got your interest. Maybe you're not quite clear on what the connection is. Can you throw it into a ChatGPT type of interaction and say, what's the common theme here? And even if it's coming up with something that's like, you're close, but I would say it differently, then say it differently. By all means, say it differently. That's the value you're going to add to it. So what I would suggest you do, if you don't already, is keep a prompt library. How many of you are doing this? Awesome. So as you know from probably experimenting with ChatGPT and other large language models, they're run on prompts. You're going to write something and it's going to respond and give you output. So you might just say, and you saw my one for the muffins and puppies earlier, that was very simple. It was just several Chihuahua puppies holding several blueberry muffins. That is a prompt. In the case of DALL-E, it might have gotten the response I wanted, it might not have. If I needed to tweak it, I might have said several Chihuahua puppies holding several blueberry muffins in a photographic style, with some bokeh in the background or whatever. I might have added some detail to what kind of instruction I wanted to give it so that I could get exactly the kind of output I was looking for. You'll do the same in a written environment, right? You'll say, take these two excerpts from different books and look for a meta theme, like a common insight between them. And that's the prompt. And then Claude or whoever is going to give you back that passage that I showed on the right. Right? So as you go through experimenting, make sure that you're saving the prompts that you actually write to issue to the tool that are actually getting you the results that you want. Even some of the ones you don't want, because maybe you were close, and then you'll think later of like, oh, if I just added, give it to me in a photographic style, then I would get the result that I wanted. What did I already say? Oh, now I can just add that to this, and you're off and running. You're just saving yourself a lot of steps, and you're starting to develop a repository of your own commands with these tools that are getting you the results that you want. And over time, you might start to have repeated cases where, like my reading scenario, where if I'm finding these two quotes, like I'm very interested in how entropy relates to, physics and systems, but how it also relates to change and the way we approach sort of the fundamentals of change. Write me a couple of paragraphs about how to do that. Maybe throw in some context from emergent strategy and really bring a couple of paragraphs together around that. You can see how easily you can start getting some very powerful beginnings of very, very useful stuff for you. Now, I've actually taken what I just showed you on that previous slide and added where the LLMs can be part of this. So on the knowledge gathering piece, LLM can absolutely help you generate some of the partial answers that we're looking for. Once you start asking questions, you can say like, well, what's a question that's meaningful in my work? And then throw that question at ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, and say like, what are some of the partial answers? You've already done this, I'm sure, because you've said things like, write me a bunch of blog post ideas. That's been the first thing many of us would do in an environment like that. So that's partial answers. But then you're going to go, all right, well, I'm going to look for synthesis. That's the next step, is trying to help synthesize into an insight. How can I take these couple of different partial answers and look for where there's tension between them, or where there's commonness between them, or where there's something at the meta level of abstraction that other people might not see as readily as I do, because I have this unique lens that I'm bringing to my work. So how can I have the tool help me synthesize? And then at this level, with the context and externality, absolutely this is something that LLMs are really good for. Identify and ideate around trends and externalities. Whenever I am speaking for a new type of industry that I haven't spoken for before, I want to know what's going on in that industry. And now it depends, depending on which tool you're using, the training data may be dated. It may only be as recent as 2021 or something like that, but it can still give you a pretty good insight into what have been the emerging topics in that space. So I spoke for the Nevada Mining Association last fall, and I've never spoken to miners before. It's super fascinating. They're doing all this projection mapping and modeling onto mine walls. They're doing a whole lot of AI modeling of what's safe in mining environments, so that their human workers are safer. They're using obviously a lot of drones and automated robot type of mining assistance. And they're dealing with a lot of supply chain issues, as you would well imagine, with the larger macro world supply chain issues that we have, but also because Nevada, for example, is the largest resource of lithium that we have in this country, and lithium's an enormously important part of thinking about the electric vehicle future. So when you step back and think about the entire ecosystem that they operate within and the supply chains that they're thinking about, it's enormous. But I didn't think of that. The LLM did. Actually, my research team did, but the research team and the LLM did. And there's still, I get a lot of value out of my human research team still, but we're insistent on using these tools to help us make sure we're not missing some of the things that we might otherwise have missed in the research. And then the LLMs can absolutely help suggest likely approaches to the decisions or the bankable foresights, but you have to be there asking for that. You have to structure it in such a way that that's the outcome you're looking for. Do you see what I'm saying? Like your prompts are going to be different. based on what you're asking for, and you're being very intentional walking through this process so that you're learning, so that you're directing the tool to guide you through the process. TM, did you have something? Thank you. Can we wait for the mic? Do you mind? Yeah, thank you. Sorry, because I know you're going to say something wonderful. Plus, we all love listening to your voice.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing. Chat GPT, outdated, right?
Yeah.
You've introduced Poe and Claude. I've heard a lot about Claude, and I'm assuming, and I want you to clarify, it's because Claude is more up to date. Can you clarify Chat GPT versus Poe versus Claude and the sources relevance from a timing?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. That's a good question. So actually, ChatGPT is it was outdated from when it launched, publicly a year and a half, whatever, almost 2 years ago, because it was relying on a data set that ended with November 2021, I think. But if you subscribe, then you get access to the latest GPT model that they use, and that's actually more up to date. So ChatGPT, the subscription version is actually, GPT-4 is more up to date with current web-based content. Claude, I don't know what their date limitations are, and Poe is just an aggregator of all of these tools, so Poe itself doesn't have a model behind it. But Bard from Google, for example, and now their new Gemini, there's all different tools that you can play around with, and they're all going to have slightly different dates. I'm sure if you ask the tool, it can tell you when its training data is current too. You're on 4, yeah. So you're good. It's not so out of date on GPT-4. Yeah, you're good there. Most of the time, unless you're doing if you're doing the mining research or something analogous to that in your work, you might need to have very up to the moment kind of information about, if I'm being asked to go speak on BBC about an issue that's just trended in the last couple weeks, obviously I'm going to do my own research and not rely on what they call a stochastic parrot. Like the GPT is only going to give me the next most likely word. It does not necessarily know world events, right? So I'm not going to rely on that. I'll rely on my human research team, but that's because we're all using the same common sense that a machine would not know to use. But yes, from a date standpoint, it's not so bad when you're on a subscription model of ChatGPT. Let me go here. So this speaks to the creative example, the angel and devil idea. There's a couple of different ways you can think about how you use AI to generate more insights. And I think of this, you all talked about this a little bit already. So there's the ideation approach. So prompting AI to come up with a list of like blog posts or social media posts or whatever, and then having that list that you can just kind of run through. You can have it draft for you. That's a really helpful way to break through if you're feeling kind of a writer's block sort of thing. You can just have it run you a rough draft. I find sometimes that I'm a better editor than writer, and you may feel that too. So it's a nice way to break through that limitation. Or you might have it refine. You can have it take something you've already drafted and say, write this better, but maybe give it more specific instruction, like write this so that it makes sense to post as a LinkedIn post with an audience that is mostly chief marketing officers who are going to care about, wellness or whatever. Like however constructive you can be in that prompt, you're going to get back better results. So those are 3 different ways that you can use it. But always remember this last box, please review your content, your output, because it is not going to give you accuracy. It is going to give you the most likely output, that it's statistically most likely next words that are most likely to come in sequence after one another, not the most accurate. Please know that distinction. It's very helpful though. So it sometimes happens to be the case that the next most likely sequence of words leads to a very valid contract. It may be that a lawyer looks over that contract and goes, looks great, signed off. That may actually be accurate, but it's not accurate because it was intending to be accurate. It's accurate because it was intending to be likely. Does that make sense? Okay. So here's a walkthrough of that same process, step by step, and I'm not going to do it because I don't think we really have the luxury of time to do this, but this is in that handout that you're going to have at the end that you'll get on the QR code. But it's asking, kind of what are those big questions that you have in your environment, in your work, that you need to ask on a regular basis to provoke new insights, to provoke new learnings and new content that you can share, new value that you can co-create with your clients, and so on. What are those meaningful questions that you can go back to? And then how will you use the tools to either ideate, draft, or refine around those questions, around the partial answers that you start gathering up around those questions? And then for every stage in that process, you can be using the tools in these various ways to approach it and say, all right, I'm at the point where I've assembled a bunch of partial answers. I'm going to have it synthesize. I want to have it synthesized in the form of a draft, like the example I showed you of the cats in modern art, right? And then be able to use that very simply and rewrite it in my own way of speaking, and add my own spin, add my personality to it, so that when I send it out to my email audience, they're like, wow, this is 100% Kate. And yet it is 100% me. It's 100% me plus the benefit of tools that helped facilitate me getting to me a lot faster. Because I'm the one who made the connection between the two excerpts, right? I'm seeing the value in those useless bits of knowledge, and I'm looking for some help in making that connective leap. That's all, right? Yes. I'm just curious. Do we have, yeah, sorry, hang on one sec. We'll get the mic over to you. Oh, a question over there too. All right. No, absolutely.
I'm just curious. Can you put a number on how many insights you have a day, a week?
No, I mean, can you?
No, but I'm not capturing them. It seems as though that, like, one of the slides you took us through before, you really talked about capturing insights.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where my question generates from, is like, how many insights are you capturing? Let's say like that.
That's a really, really good and fair question. I would say that I would love to go through the process, and maybe I should take that as a challenge to be more intentional about overtly capturing and quantifying those things as insights. I am going back to my Evernote and Notion and notebooks and all that stuff all day long and capturing things. But sometimes I'm capturing little bits of pieces of information. Like I'll for sure be capturing the whole order into disorder into reorder, and be thinking about that because I've been reading a lot about entropy, and I've been reading a lot about information theory, and I can definitely see the pieces starting to connect, and I'm definitely going to have ChatGPT or something help me really streamline how efficiently to talk about the connective tissue there and make it simple to write a high value email to my clients about. So I don't know how many, but I think that process is one that is super, super valuable for all of us to just be in the habit of making a rhythm of every time we observe something that seems like it tickles our brain for some reason, to just make sure we're capturing that. And if it tickles our brain and it tickles our heart too, then super valuable. And that's a thing that I think there's always this kind of existential angst about, when is AI going to make us irrelevant or whatever? And I'm thinking, like, it kind of doesn't matter, because we have our own value, and our own value is this really interesting lived embodied experience of being in the world and being with each other and understanding that, there's something real about the way you go through your day, and I can imagine you going through your day and you can imagine me going through mine. That's something that AI is not going to do with each other. But we get to do that. And that's pretty cool, to bring that kind of empathy to the way we interact with one another and help solve each other's problems. So anyway, I think that's an incredibly great prompt, and one I'm going to ponder. But I think the takeaway for all of us is that we just really need to be in that habit of capturing every time we've got a really good little tickle or a partial answer or a good question. I think I say again and again, like, meaningful questions are far more valuable than sensible answers. Absolutely, like, no question. No question. Yes, question. Yes, question. But yes, you can keep going back to a meaningful question again and again and again. A sensible answer is good for now, and then you move on. So I think we had a question over here. I thought, yeah, you got it. Okay, blue microphone. Sorry, give 1 second for the blue mic to come on. You got it? We're almost there. There we go.
Yeah,
There we go.
Okay, I'm sensing from your life experience, you were fortunate you were on the pre-importance of this, so you've seen that time frame develop. Now you're using the tool and you're seeing from your experience how to best serve your needs. I'm sensing there's an urgency for all of us.
Yeah.
Because this is only going to accelerate, and it's really a matter of competitiveness.
Yeah.
Relative to each other, what we want to achieve.
Yeah, I think competitiveness, sure. I think that's true. We definitely want to be relevant in the greater scheme of the economy and the value we add, and be able to demonstrate to our clients that we're not out of the loop when it comes to the current ways of doing things or processing information. I don't know if that's the way I would frame it as the most important thing. I think it's just the modalities are changing of how we process information and communicate with the world, and we want to keep up. We want to keep up because why wouldn't we want to keep up? Like if you resisted using search engines back in 1998 and then you waited until years and years later to start learning how to use search engines, you missed a lot of the training that you were innately going to get just by kind of feeling your way through the evolution of search engines. And now we all know how much search engines are just an ever-present way. It's not like we use them to be competitive, we just use them because that's how we access the world. And I think this is the next way that we access the world, and we connect with one another, and we connect with the opportunities and the information around us. So I think we all have to be using it mostly because there's so much opportunity to do more of ourselves. And this is the opportunity to add more to the work that we're doing, and add more to the work we're doing for our clients as well in that context. Is that helpful? I appreciate that. I appreciate your question and your framing of it. Yeah.
Okay, as speakers, this came up as the big ethical debate on, are you using AI to write your articles? So how are you acknowledging at all that use of something to help you write your article or form your thoughts, or what's your thought on that part?
Yeah, thank you. It's a really important question. It's one that comes up. I work around higher education a lot, and higher education is obviously really struggling with this. I personally think that what we all need the skill of doing is using the tool to generate the draft and help us refine and help us get through processes, but be very intentional about it. And this review box is in a different color for a very, very important reason, right? We need the skill of reviewing and making sure we're not simply leaving things the way they were generated by the tool. We're figuring out, did it say it the way I wanted it to? Do I need to rewrite the prompt? So I've advised educators, for example, not at all to shun ChatGPT from their classrooms, but to encourage students to use ChatGPT to write essays, but document the prompts that they use along the way and why they changed the prompt from this to that to this to that. They're writing, FYI, when they write those prompts, and they're kind of writing the framework of the essay, and they're just having a tool that's really efficient at synthesis do the rest. But they're absolutely learning as they do it. And I think that is the modality we need to get ourselves into too. So I don't think that at the moment, I haven't had an issue with a need to disclose and a confrontation with an entity that needed me to disclose that an AI tool had been used in the early part of generation of content. I would have no problem disclosing it. If they want to disqualify me, that's fine. But I haven't had an issue with it yet. So far, I've been able to really explain where I'm coming from with this, and that no part of what I'm generating is simply ChatGPT doing ChatGPT. It is me bringing my value to the tool and then refining it in a very uniquely Kate O'Neill, the tech humanist kind of way. It's not me throwing a bunch of, Nevada Mining Association wants a keynote on tech. generate a presentation and I deliver that presentation. By no means is that what I'm doing. So I would encourage you all to take, your own approach that makes sense for you. But yes, there is this kind of this discourse in the speaking industry about absolutely not using AI generated content in your keynotes. I think that's baloney. I don't think we can stand by that for very long. Academic journals are being very insistent about that. I think that's baloney. I don't think we're going to be able to stand by that for very long. It's just not a very future ready position to take or posture to take. So I think be ready to adapt, to an entity. If you need to work with an entity that insists that there be no AI tool used in your process, then use no AI tool in your process. But I think that's—
And yet we use Google.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's AI in everything that we do. I use Notion for a lot of my note taking, and it has an incredibly cool built-in AI function. Like, if I just start writing a list and say, keep generating this list, it will do a great job of continuing the list. I'm not going to not use that. It's so helpful. But I'm not going to rely completely on that either. And it's not going to, override my thinking brain that goes like, no, that's a really dumb entry on the list. I'm obviously not going to publish that entry on the list. So I don't think it's a solid 100% answer, but I appreciate you surfacing that because it is very relevant for those of us who do keynote speaking or any kind of speaking where entities like associations or organizations might have policies about that sort of thing.
Though it breaks my technical heart, we're going to have to take one last question because we're going to have to call time.
Yeah,
we could stay for so long. So June's been waiting patiently. I think we'll have to call it after that.
Blue mic, sorry to interrupt you.
It's green.
Oh, here you go. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the brain stimulation. Mine's about to explode. And I'm curious about your prompt library. Is that something that you're doing in Notes or that's
Notion?
So, okay.
In my case, Notion, it could be Evernote, it could be a notebook. You could just be copying it into, Microsoft OneNote or whatever you use that captures your runaway little thoughts and clippings that you keep throughout the day. That's where you want to keep that. I'm going to skip way ahead really, really fast because I had a lot here so that we could be sure we were going to cover everything. See, I was ready. But I did. I talked about some of this stuff. I talked about a lot of this stuff. We just didn't talk about it with these slides.
I think we had enough for the workshop we talked about.
There we go. That's the QR code. Please go ahead and grab that QR code. And it's Talkadot. Many of you are using this, so you'll have NSA GA should be the code that you use to get to it. Can you in the Zoom get that to that okay? Okay, great. Everybody got that all right? And you need to come back up to wrap up. So I will just say thank you so much for having me here today. What a great opportunity to be with you. Thank you so much.
Let's please give Kate a real resounding, NSA Georgia round of applause.
Thank you.
The applause is only a bit of how much we appreciate you. When we talked, I said, do you think we might need to do the keynote and maybe do an afternoon workshop? She goes, no, I think we can fit it all in. Oh my gosh, we need you for like a week. So thank you, Kate, truly for being here.
Thank you.
We will do just a couple of last slides as we're transitioning, but everything today resonated so much, and not only the content, but the connection of the people, all of you asking questions. And that's what NSA Georgia is about. It is that the intersections of things that may not make sense together. When I work with my genius clients, I'm always talking about contradictory constructs changed to complementary concepts. I can mark in time that this day, this session that I just heard and the conversations around it have been one of the most tactical, practical ways to take this not so practical, tactical stuff in my head and making it apply to what we do as speakers and as whatever we do in serving our communities. Think about your impact. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the weird intersections. Thank you for showing up. As you know, our theme this year is Show Up at NSA Georgia, and today you showed up with optimism. I wanted to thank, do I have a clicker? I do. Thank you. Thank you, Rich. So we did show up with optimism, and I want you to take what you heard today and figure out what your weird intersections are. What is it that you heard that might not make sense? And then what I loved that Kate said was, don't forget to capture it. We think about it, we have an idea. Candace asks, how many ideas a day do you have? We have all these ideas. It's just flowing around, and we have these brilliant ideas. They're genius. Do not forget to capture them. What an amazing day we've had talking about tech and being human and what you wear on stage. And we also had Robbie Quinn, Mr. Kate O'Neill here with Kate O'Neill to capture it. So I thank all of you for being here, for showing up with optimism. Please remember the holiday. Please remember our orator and our speaker, and the ninja, the name tag ninja is raising her name tag to say, do not forget to leave your name tags in the back. We're so proud of those. Next month, big day. Some of you joined us because you came on Showcase Day. Our Speaker Academy group, and now we have a few more. Shantae has come in the door, and I think so. So we've got our folks here. Also want to quickly recognize, because we've had some of our new members that were not here when we called your name out. Bill Lyday, Dr. Bill Lyday is right here, and he's one of our newer members. And somebody else came in that was on the screen but wasn't here at the beginning. Thank you. So our newest member, and I'm blanking, Stephanie Graham, right? Stephanie Graham. So we are just thrilled. Thank you for what you do. Our showcase is more than just a showcase. It's not people walking across the stage. They're telling us about what stage they're going through in life, sharing it with you. You're going to learn so much. Thank you, Richard. Thank you for Speaker Academy. February 3rd, I'm going to give you a little hint. We are going to give, because we are probably going to have a big crowd, and the Speaker Academy people are bringing, their mom and them. We got to have spaces. So we're going to give a space for members to sign up, a 10-day space before we add on guests, to make sure that all of our members, because it kind of gives me chills, but we are almost topping 100 in our membership. And so we want to make sure that, I don't know what the fire marshal code is, Rich. What can we have? Theater style, 125? 2,000. So we're going to give the first 1999 of you a spot. So then we're going to open up to other guests and things. So when we put it out there and say sign up, go ahead and get your spot. You're not going to want to miss. We've been watching, Candace and I and Pam have been getting to watch them along the way. You're not going to want to miss these 7 people who are graduating. And get ready for Speaker Academy next March. Kate, thank you again. We're forever grateful, and enjoy what you're doing with what you just learned at NSA Georgia. I'm proud to be your president. Thank you.
Well, Jerry, Pam, Judy, Kim, thanks so much for hanging out. I've enjoyed getting a chance to spend the morning with you guys.
Great job, Rob, of being our co-host today. Thanks for waving your arms in the air so the people in the room would know that we actually are here, even though we're not there.
Yeah, and I was texting on the, for our producer as well, just to make sure that they knew that we were trying to get our questions answered too. So but no, this has been wonderful. This has been wonderful.
Hey, I bet it was better than that other meeting you were multitasking on.
It was. There was a lot of really good content-rich stuff for both.
Yes.
An ear pod, and I was trying to do both things here. By the way, that auction, I shared this with Jerry. Mark LeBlanc was the speaker. He's a former president of NSA and CSP, CPAE, and he was auctioning off a seat at his Achievers Circle that Jerry has talked about that he has participated in. And so I served as the auctioneer, and we raised $10,000.
Oh my gosh. There you go.
$10,000 he matched it 4 seats. We started off at 500. I got people up to 2,500. And then there was a kind of a battle going back and forth. So he volunteered to give 4 seats at $2,500 a piece. So there was a nice $10,000 influx for benefit into that particular chapter. So,
and
wow, that's masterful.
Not only is it worth it, it's priceless. I've been working with him for almost 20 years now, and there's not a day goes by that something that he taught me, something that I value, has helped me in business. So you don't wait for an auction. Find out when he's having his next Achievers Circle, and I cannot promote it enough.
That's great. Thank you for that. So Pam, what was your takeaway from today? What was your pearl of wisdom?
You know, it blends into some of the things I'm talking about in my thesis about future thinking and how we go from a future state and come back to the present to guide that through. So kind of some just reminders and overlaps. So yeah, it was really good. It was really good. And just the delivery, the techniques that she was using, I think were exemplar examples of
Wonderful.
what we all, do or aspire to do.
Kim, I see you mentioned put in the chat that you're so glad to be here. We are glad that you joined us as well, and hope you'll have an opportunity to be there in person again at some point in the near future. Judy, what's your takeaway?
Hold on. Whoa.
There's
Oh, I didn't know if you heard me or not. Honestly, I got to get going because I'm going to be meeting my family to hike. My son from Seattle is good. But anyway, so many takeaways, and honestly, oh my gosh, how I'm going to be using Chat GPT, but I'm definitely going to look into Claude. Did she say that Poe was also another one?
Judy.
Anyway,
Poe,
There's hundreds. There's hundreds and hundreds.
Okay. But I think my big takeaway, if I were to say my big takeaway, it is to keep a library of prompts.
Yeah,
use it. Yeah, I'm gonna head on out because I'm.
All right. Well, have a great hike. Keep yourself hydrated, Judy.
Thank you. Definitely. It's cold up here. Cold.
Kim,
okay.
Kim, prayers for your sick family member. I hope that they recover quickly. And
what about you, Rob? What was your takeaway from it all?
I use Chat GPT and working at an academic institution at Howard University where we have been having to look at this thing at this whole AI through the lens of how do we make sure that we are preserving the academic process and the integrity of that, at the same time wanting to make sure that we are protecting personal identifiable information and intellectual property, because one of the biggest challenges that we see is that people are doing research, and perhaps federally sponsored research with intellectual property that potentially could be we could have tech transfer with funds coming into the institution, but if people inadvertently say, well, I'm going to put my proposal, I'm going to put all my research into Chat GPT and edit it, not knowing that by doing so, you have made that public, and you then you're going to lessen your chances of being able to capitalize on that intellectual property. So, really trying to just look at it. My job as the Chief Audit and Compliance Officer is to make sure that we are providing the appropriate guardrails, not telling people you can't use it, but when you use it, here are the things that you need to be able to understand and how we can do so safely. So
and them understanding that there's so many other ones than Chat GPT.
Yeah, exactly. I just use that as an example.
You know what I mean? Because then it gives you the source.
Right.
And so that's huge in universities.
Something to take a close look at, Rob, is that when content is created using artificial intelligence, it's not copyrightable. So check that out. And, if you wrote it, great, you have the copyright. If Chat GPT or whoever wrote it, there is no copyright. It cannot be copied according to the government. So that's something to keep in mind. What was interesting to me was Kate's focus is on the humanist approach. Claude came from a group of scientists getting together who left Chat GPT and said, we want to build a model. We want to build an AI assistant that is more friendly to humans. And I think that's why Kate picked Claude. I use it. I got this guy. His name's Claude.
I love that. Well, guys, I'm going to have to run, but it's been a blast hanging out with you guys. Have a blessed rest of the day. Great weekend celebration of MLK Jr. whose impact continues to resonate every day.
I had a great time. Thanks for the invitation.
Thanks very
Okay.
much, everyone. Have a great day.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
one.